Hey, we're back at Twitch. It's been a long time and also a long time coming, so I'm really happy to be back here with John. Also, hi to Ricky in chat, nice to see you. So, the plan for today is that we're actually going to do a chess lesson on Mikhail Tal. Maybe John can correct my pronunciation there if it wasn't.
Mikhail Tal, yes.
Yeah, okay, so it was a good pronunciation. Also, hi Olon, nice to see you, and Kayudo, nice to see you in chat. So, yeah, I'm really excited to learn more about Mikhail Tal, and to be perfectly honest, I am a little bit ashamed to say this, but I have actually never studied a single game from him. So I'm really, really excited to see this.
Oh, I'm so jealous of you, Solvay, right now. As one of my friends said, I never watched Game of Thrones in my life for like 10 years after it was published. And he knew this one day. I was like, oh, I'm feeling so jealous of you because you will have so much fun going through those episodes. Well, I feel very jealous about you right now because you will meet a person that is also quite amazing as a person himself. We'll talk about that, why everybody loves him. But also when it comes to his chess, I think you'll resonate and connect with his chess because you're an attacking person yourself. You like those attacking game sacrifices, and Tal, I think, is your hero. Could be your hero. Could be the guy that you can model. You can learn a lot. We'll talk about psychology behind his sacrifices as well. We'll talk about engines and whether engines don't like his sacrifices, but there's also a human factor and so on. We'll also talk about these elements today. But overall, I think I'm very, very excited to teach Tal to you. Of course, it might take 2 sessions. I already gathered like 10 to 12 games of his. I can't tell them all today. Maybe second session, maybe even third one. But I think it's worth it because he was a world champion that left a big legacy. And I think you will love him.
Yeah,
And if
definitely.
you love him, yeah, we can do a
Yeah.
sequel to this. Yes.
It's crazy. I haven't watched any of his games because, as you
Yeah.
said, I do love this attacking chess, and also I have to mention that after our 2 sessions on Alekin,
Yes.
I actually did notice some differences in the way I play and the way I understand positions, and that's only from studying a couple of master games. So I do know
Right.
a lot of coaches say this, like one of the best things you can do for your chess improvement is study master games, but now I actually felt it on my body.
Yeah.
So I'm quite excited to learn more about other masters, and I know Tal is a pretty iconic one.
He is. I improved a lot by studying master games, right? That's how I become a candidate master. That's all I was doing basically, right? As a teenager. Like getting all these books, Talbot Finnick, Alekin, Capablanca games, Karpov games, and just going through the games and asking questions. Letting the guy talk to the positions, explanations, and it's a great way to improve. You will, of course, you'll have preference to certain masters. You want to model certain masters games. And I think Tal, also with Alekin. Alekin is also great, yeah? Remember those lessons, how he builds up those attacks, how he fights for the center, and this
Yeah.
conversion to attack. Beautiful, right? Tal, by the way, also, many people think that, oh, he's just, this crazy patzer, like caveman kind of style. But Tal was also a great endgame player, and Tal for a long time kept the longest undefeated streak in chess. It was sometime like 80, 85 games or something. Nobody could defeat him. And this happened later in his later life. Maybe it was like 50 or something. Yeah?
85
Tal, when it was
games.
prime, it was like, yeah, he was undefeated. He was like a great endgame player as well, very solid if he wants to play solid chess. Yeah, so we can also break those misconceptions about Tal. He has everything. And I also show you today basic games of his that he fights for the center, he goes for development, and also a couple of his sacrifices that, psychological based. And also some of his quotes, I think. Also, we should speak to his personality a little bit. Yeah, this is a beautiful master. Very humble player as well, right? Very humble and sometimes like self-appreciating those. Like also like he mentioned, for example, he won the Blitz Championship in '88. He died, by the way, in 1992. So it was just 4 years before he
Oh, that
died.
was the
He
year I
wins.
was born.
Yes, you were born in 1992 and he died on that year. Very early
Yes.
age, by the way. You could have lived much longer. He had this kidney issues for the rest of his life. I think he was already like around 22 or something. He has kidney problems that affected him for the rest of his life. And that's, I think, one reason why he couldn't keep the title and so on. We can talk about that. Of course, he was a heavy smoker, heavy drinker, and so on. That was also like with life choices.
Yeah.
But 4 years before he died, he wins the World Blitz Championship. And then he says, "Yeah, I didn't care so much about the games. I smoked some cigarettes, hang around in the commentary rooms, and I'm looking forward to next year where I'll become the new ex-champion." Yeah, he's also like very humble. He talked. He was, for example, very open about his mistakes, about his hallucinations. Sometimes during the games, he saw some crazy line that he was even mentioning that in his books. I will also show you a couple of those funny lines that I found this in his book. Tal Botvinnik, beautiful one, 1960 World Championship match, written by Tal. All of his quotes, ideas, what he saw, what he didn't see, all of the World Championship games against Botvinnik. You can read in this book. Beautiful one, short. But also there's a bigger book of his. It's called My Life and Games by Mikhail Tal. That's a favorite chess book of many players, I know. Full of stories, like full of beautiful stories. He was imagining a hippo one game, like people thought that he was just calculating a line, but he was imagining a hippo drained in a lake or something, and then this machine could just drag the hippo back. That's what he was thinking for like half an hour. And then he
What?
comes up with this amazing sacrifice, and then people like, next day, newspapers, Tal came up with this amazing idea, like the beautiful genius sacrifice. And then he must be calculating all these deep lines. He's like, no, I was just thinking about the hippo, drained in the water. All these stories you can find in that book as well. Hilarious book. So funny. So he definitely is this human side of chess. Also, given today's day and age, machines are so powerful. There's less room for creativity. You might say, this human factor is maybe less pronounced. I think we can also learn a lot from his games and how he used this human psychology,
Yeah.
going for sacrifice and time pressure and so on. So lots of discussion about Tal. I'm very excited. He's not a player, by the way, that resonates with my style. As you know, my style is more like positional, strategic, Botvinnik, Smyslov, Karpov. But I also learned a lot while preparing for this episode for you. And everybody can learn a lot from his vision for chess.
That's
You
really
know,
nice that you learned some new things too.
I did. You always improve a lot. Yeah. This weekend I was in Denmark. I did get this book with me, preparing for you. And I found many, many gems that I didn't know. I forgot about them. So I'm having this Tal database right now that I can even make videos in the future on my YouTube channel.
You
We
know,
can kick off whenever you want.
yeah, of course. The
Yeah.
the thing that comes to mind for me when I think about the Tal is that picture when it's like smoking next to the chessboard. And then also some
Yeah.
stories from Simen Agdestein, who is a Norwegian grandmaster. He runs
Yes.
the chess school, or like the chess university that Magnus went to.
Yes.
Because of course he played Mikhail Tal a couple of times.
Of course.
But that was when Tal was on his older age, so he was not
Yeah.
as sharp anymore.
Mm.
But he did have some stories, that he would drink a lot of alcohol and play,
Yes.
the players at my strength, after rounds and things like that, and just enjoy himself. So
Yeah.
he sounds
Just
like
enjoy.
a fun guy.
One guy like Ivanchuk, Ivanchuk also goes and watch amateur games. He can talk to anybody, he can play with anybody, like this passion for the game.
Yeah,
Like that's why I think everybody loves him. Like this big passion, humble person, quite funny character, amazing player. We can learn. So I haven't seen anybody in the chess world that doesn't like Tal. Everybody loves him. There's
yeah.
this aura, this persona of Mikhail Tal.
But I know
Um,
also he has a
yeah.
nickname, right? Magician from Riga.
Magician from Riga.
Yeah.
Yes, he was originally from Latvia. Of course, played for Soviet Union, but he's sort of a hero in Latvia. Yeah, like this national treasure in
Mm-hmm.
Latvia, and that also inspired later Latvian masters like Alexei Shirov, for example. Maybe you know him. Shirov is also an amazing dynamical player. He even wrote a book called Fire on Board. Amazing sacrifices, like Tal, like sacrifice. So even inspired the whole generation of new chess players. You know,
Yeah.
that kind of style, like sacrificial chess, this quality aspect of chess, how much material can you sacrifice for achieving good quality. And that's also, I think, what makes chess a beautiful game, right? Because it's all about trade-offs. Like you can sacrifice material to gain something that you cannot measure that easily. It can be kingside attack, kingside weaknesses, coordination, and so on. And Tal was great to smell these factors, to judge those factors. Like his intuition for dynamics, as we say, was great. And dynamics in chess is defined like this: it's a potential for pieces. You cannot measure it directly, but it's a piece potential, almost like energy,
Mm-hmm.
this energy between the pieces. That he was so nice in smelling, like he could sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns, but he was believing in this potential for the pieces to later attack and win the game.
Yeah.
And that's also what makes his games beautiful to watch.
Let's get
Yeah.
started. I'm really excited.
Let's get started. Let's get started. Okay. It was so difficult, by the way, to choose games. But my structure for today is that we'll begin with some of his games that shows his chess sense, almost like Morphy kind of chess sense, developing his pieces rapidly and so on. And in the next session, I will talk about more of his positional sacrifices, long-term sacrifices,
Yeah.
right? It could be positional queen sacrifice, for example, yeah? Queen for 3 pieces or something, like more like long-term sacrifice or knight sacrifice. Sometimes they sacrifice a knight and the game goes on for like 25 moves. There's no checkmate, yeah? So it's like more like positional sacrifices is for the next session. Today it's more like just to show his chess sense and his chess vision, let's say, yeah? I will of course stop in key moments for everybody. You can stop me anytime. I will also ask you a couple of times to guess the moves by Mikhail Tal, as we always do, right? Feel free to just stop me anytime you want. There's also one King's Indian game by Mikhail Tal.
Oh,
I know you're a King's Indian
fun.
player.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love King's Indian.
we can maybe also look at that. He was also a King's Indian master, by the way. You can learn a lot from his King's Indian games.
It's definitely weird. I haven't looked into any of his games. It's long overdue.
You're missing on life so much, Sulai.
Yeah.
So you'll be a different player right now after this couple of sessions. Yes. So just for this game, for example, as we did with Alekin, he's playing in a Simul most likely here, exhibition, yes, 1975. And just to show his chess sense, he's playing with white pieces, like very rapid development, yeah? Just get the knight on d4,
Have you
king
wait,
h1.
okay. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, now the board updated here. Okay.
We can start from the very beginning,
Yeah.
yes. He's an e4 player as well, you're e4 player yourself, so
Yeah.
there's lots of similarities, yeah? Very typical Sicilian d4 stuff. He was very principled against Sicilian, very rapid development.
Can I
yeah?
ask you a
d3.
question already? I'm sorry.
Of course.
Why do you not recapture with the queen?
On d4.
Yeah.
Because you get knight c6 tempo,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
That's also a fine move, but you just give this extra tempo to black in the opening. So that's why they usually take back the knight. Also prepares for later f4s, by the way, yeah?
Okay.
As you'll see in the game. You're also a player who likes f4, so that I think is also connecting. It's coming very soon. Right? So he goes king h1. Why? Because he wants to play f4, you see? And he doesn't want to allow bishop c5 pins on that diagonal. Like very typical.
Yeah.
Very typical stuff. f4 is on the board. We discussed in Alekin's session, he's playing for the center, this pawn control center. And also at some point you can play e5, right? To activate the bishop as well.
Yeah.
Very typical style. Knight e2. The knight can go to f3 later on. He focuses on his development. Knight f3. Yeah, just gets all the pieces to knight squares first. He castles. And then he makes an Alekin move. Do you remember? Alekin likes to make a move with the queen in his games.
Yeah.
Do you recall that, Sulai?
Is it the queen e2?
Yes, he goes queen e2, right? What are the ideas behind queen e2?
Queen e4 later battery.
Yes. Also supporting one pawn break. Which one is that?
E5.
Yes, because if you play e5 directly, black has enough men, yeah, to take on e5.
Yeah.
That's the basic problem, let's say. But if you play queen e2, then you also support at some point this e5 push, and then maybe even queen e4 battery later on, yeah? He's forming a plan like that. He just introduces this plan, also gets ready for bishop move, rooks are going to be connected, yeah? Just very natural again, very natural developing moves. Knight c5, and then comes e5. And this is very typical already. We are playing for e5 in those lines. And I think you will soon see one of his main ideas behind this push. Do you recall in your course you mentioned this attacking pawn concept on e5? Yeah, we discussed that, like just like Alekin game. What is the, for example, consequence of knight moving from f6? What did white gain
no longer
in this process?
protecting h7.
Can that be relevant? Can you smell some sacrifices from this position potentially?
Potentially a Greek gift, maybe.
Yes. Definitely one of the main ideas why we push e5 is to prepare a Greek gift. And also you can see, right, all the black pieces on the queen side, they are like bystanders on the attack against the king. There's only this bishop on e7 that is guarding g5. And that's the only piece that can spoil Greek gift because then you can take our knight on g5, you see?
Yeah.
So that's why Mikhail Tal here makes a move that goes for the correct exchange. If I ask you this way, right, engage in a move that prepares a good exchange for white in this position.
Bishop f5.
Bishop
G5,
f5 or bishop g5?
G5, sorry.
Yes, he goes bishop g5. Again, very natural, right? What can be more natural? This is the only undeveloped guy. You play bishop g5. Why? Because your goal is to remove the only defensive piece that covers some nice squares on the king side. You see? Like he just plays very, very normal chess, also connecting his rooks, and gets ready for Greek kid potential on the king side.
Yeah, I
Having
just
said that, yes.
can't just black exchange the knight on d3?
Yes. Yes, they can do so. Now we can discuss. First of all, if you take on d3, bishop e7 wins. Can you see why?
Yeah.
Because that's double attack. Uh-huh. Rook e8, bishop d6, for example. I can park my bishop with tempo, and then I will take your knight.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't work directly, but that's definitely one of the good points you mentioned. Potentially they can take on d3, but they have no time for that.
Yeah.
Machine gives bishop h7 is also winning, but that's sort of inhuman, right? Because here you need to find the move b4 to be able to win this position.
Yeah.
Right? Because you need to move the knight from a4 because it's controlling some key squares like this. And then machine gives bishop e5 as winning, but it's much more complex to understand, you know?
Yeah.
Like why did we sacrifice the bishop and then go for the exchange? Instead, Tal goes bishop e5. Much more natural, much more human. They take on e5. This will lead to a failure because after takes, it's equal material right now, and it's white turn. What should white play in this position? Sorry, black is an extra pawn.
Does the sacrifice work now, and then you can follow up with, I don't know, rook h3 maybe, and then you can go queen h5?
Exactly. This game is nice because it connects to pattern knowledge of the Greek gift, with some concrete calculation.
Yeah.
Strong players, as you, attacking players, see this motif instantly, and that's huge part of chess improvement, seeing those patterns, like recurrent patterns of the Greek gift. It's screaming to be played for white in this position, and that should be.
Yeah.
So definitely this needs some calculation, but you really want to make this move work. So all of our resources are invested on this sacrifice,
Yeah.
And he goes for the Greek gift, of course. But here comes the key moment. After king g8, here comes the key moment. It's a great calculation exercise. Do you think queen h5 directly is a good move for white in this position?
I thought so, but now I understand maybe not, since you're asking.
Yes. What could be black's defensive resource? It looks like checkmate on the next turn.
Move the f pawn, maybe you can escape.
Yes, indeed. Queen h5, f5.
Yeah.
Black is the one who is winning. Incredible.
Yeah.
Because can you see? The king is escaping via f7. You cannot simultaneously threaten those moves while also keeping the king, away from f7. And you have no manpower to, let's say, cut off this f7 square. The knight doesn't contribute to the attack anymore.
Yeah.
So and black is an extra piece.
You need to stop the f pawn from.
Or you need to find other attacking resources in this position. You need to bring other guys to the king side rapidly in this position.
Okay, I guess maybe. Well, the e pawn is pinned. Maybe you could do like knight f5 or something.
Beautiful. Knight f5 is Tal's move. As Kasparov says, knight on f5 is worth the pawn itself. You know it already, Knight on f5 is a great attacking piece. As we'll see in this one, to see how it concludes until checkmate. This is pinned, so if you take my knight, then white wins. So much extra material. So, queen g5 was the game continuation. And here comes my question again. What did white play in this position? Now you have one more man on the king side, the knight on f5. But it looks like, the queen is covering some nice squares. And this involves another chess pattern. This is more like checkmate patterns in chess.
Yeah.
Take your time. Also good exercise for your audience.
Yeah. Also, chat. You can also feel free to participate.
Please. We encourage you to write comments, ideas, why questions.
I think isn't knight h6 interesting? But I don't know. You can win a queen, but I don't know if it is that enough, because we have sacrificed a lot of pieces. We would be left with a queen and a rook against two rooks and two minor pieces.
It's so nice that you saw this knight h6 move, because if the king moves to h7, there are some devastating discoveries on the h-file. So you literally is forcing this move, let's say, but then rook g3.
Yeah.
It's very good that you saw this.
But I
But of
don't
course
think
they will
it's
take.
enough because we don't. Yeah, we have the queen,
Yes.
but yeah, it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Black has enough manpower here, enough
Yeah.
material to claim an advantage.
Yeah.
Yes. So same with knight g7, by the way. You can also look at knight g7, but black will find a way, to
Yeah.
sacrifice the queen back, and they have an okay position. White to play and mate in 4.
Oh,
What if I
really?
told you this?
Is it mate in
Incredible.
4?
Forced mate in
I
4.
believe you.
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking. Okay. Queen e5, I was looking because it threatens checkmate in 1, but I can find a follow-up. It would be nice to break
Wait.
the...
Queen e5 doesn't threaten mate, right? Because this is
Oh,
already
yeah.
guarded by the queen
Yeah,
e7.
sorry.
Yeah? Well, that's a candidate potentially. This actually
I did look at the rook h5 earlier, but I didn't find anything concrete.
That's also a very good candidate. It doesn't work because they will even sacrifice the queen like this.
Yes,
right?
and we
And
don't
look
have
how much
enough.
material black
Yes.
gets. Yeah. Black is like 2 minors plus rook for the queen. They are winning.
I did look at knight e7, but then we're just in the same
You're
situation
getting
again.
closer to the solution. You're getting closer to the solution. It's very good that you saw knight e7 check. It will be checkmate, right? If the queen wouldn't be here. Aha. You gained a great information about the position. The queen is tied down in guarding the e7 square, right? Think about it this way, like logical breakdown of this tactic.
Okay,
The queen needs to guard.
so you want to... We should sacrifice the queen, maybe?
Okay, tell me the candidate move.
Queen g4 doesn't work.
But it almost works. You're getting closer to solution. By the way, why not queen g4 doesn't work? What if they take on g4?
Yeah, then it's mate.
Uh-huh.
But they don't have to take that. They can take the knight or something.
Exactly. They can even take on f5, for example, with the queen at that moment.
Yes, so you need to find
like a... Don't give up on the idea. You're very close to the solution. You need to remove the queen from g5.
You need to find a forcing way to do it.
Yes.
Oh, it's hard.
You will find this. It's the mating pattern is called Anastasia's mate. Have you heard about that before?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, wait, isn't queen... No.
Yes, it's a queen move, but you already told me yourself, you need to find another queen move which is much more forcing than queen g4.
I was looking at queen h5, but that doesn't work either, because they get...
Why not?
Because they can... Okay, queen take, and then they take them... Oh, wait, it does work. I just had to change the order. Okay, queen h5, right. Queen takes h5, then you check. King moves, and then you take rook h5.
Please visualize. That's a great visualization exercise. Can you see it until the very end?
Yes, I can see it.
Queen h5 is such a forcing move. Yeah, you literally force the exchange.
Yeah.
Then comes this knight e7, Zvishin Shah.
Yes.
And then rook h5. Isn't it cute?
Yes, it's very cute. It's very cute. I didn't see it first because I wanted to recapture the queen immediately, but you have the in between move. In between move, right? Look at this beautiful checkmate in the end. Anastasia's checkmate on the board. That's how it functions. You don't need a queen. You just need the rook, and you just need this knight cutting off the king like that. That is very cute.
It's just one of those. Yeah. I played, of course, in a simultaneous exhibition. I like it because it's like very logical play, developing moves after developing moves, like exchanging the right pieces for the attack, without even like crazy calculations or sacrifices. And then, of course, he sees the pattern. He goes for it. In this case, queen h5 doesn't work because of f5, and you're losing. e5 is knight f5. And then you see, as we say, like 3 versus 1 is sort of mate, like 3 attackers and only 1 defender is usually decisive in chess. That's all. By the way, it's called Tal ratio. In chess circles, some people talk about Tal attacking ratio. He claimed more or less, if you have like 3 attackers and your opponent only has a single defender, then that usually leads to a checkmate. The attack is successful. Yeah, he was talking about cases like that. That's interesting. Yeah, White has 3 attackers on the king's side. There's only a single defender. It's one of those cases.
So is
Of course,
that
in this case, that's also h-file.
is that ratio scalable? Let's say they have two defenders. If you have,
That's a good question. 4 versus 2, I think is more tricky. Yeah, I think the proportion is more important. Like 3 times 1 is much
yeah,
more important than 4 versus 2 because it's only like 2 times in the second case, right?
yeah,
So that's why he exchanged a pair of bishops. You might say, yeah, because here, if these bishops are gone, then there are simply less defenders on
yes.
the king side. So then he sort of, you see, he just finds a way to deliver the final blow in this line.
I think this
This is also
I
nice.
think
Yes.
this queen sacrifice was a bit harder to find because
Mhm.
I don't see that pattern that often.
Indeed, this is not a pattern that this pattern is much more common. Yeah, the Greek gift in
Yeah.
terms of frequency of occurrence, it's of course much more common, and that's how we base our calculations. But then, of course, right, all the specifics come into the tray. If 95 wasn't here, then this wouldn't work for white. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Greek gift worked right because 95 was possible. Let's say the queen was defended in this position. 95 is not possible. Then the entire thing is failing.
Yeah.
But Greek myth was screaming to be analyzed in this position. And that's what separates a master because of these patterns. They immediately sense that there's something in the position, given their pattern recognition. But then,
Yes.
of course, all the specifics and all the calculation power kicks in. And even here, yeah, the final checkmate pattern, Anastasia's mate, screaming to be played for a
Yes.
strong player of course, yeah. So this is Mikhail Tal. Now we are moving to his more like interesting sacrifices, like one of his, let's say, positional sacrifices. He used to, as Bronstein says, Tal likes to develop his pieces to the center and just sacrifices them here
Yeah.
and there. It's one of those games as well. He especially liked e6 and f7 sacrifices, by the way. He was very good at sacrificing his knights on those squares. There are so many examples. Here, Najdorf Sicilian. Have you heard about Najdorf defense before?
Yes. I've heard about
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yes, so this is one of the most common ways for black to defend. Very, very popular, of course, till this level. And Tal chooses the sharpest line against Najdorf, which is bishop g5. Yeah, by far the sharpest. Because again, it's all about rapid development. f4, queen f3, castle long is white's plan. They want to immediately develop their pieces, castle long, and attack the
That
black
sounds
king.
fun.
Yes. And again, if you ask yourself, like, what's white's advantage here? It's better development, right? Black needs some tempo to develop his pieces. Having said that, black has extra pawn in the center, some queenside pressure, also some long-term cards in the position. So that's what makes this very interesting, like strategically. Knight e7, bishop c4, very Tal-like move, developing his pieces. h6, again, he doesn't mind keeping the bishop, he just takes the knight because he wants to preserve time. He doesn't want to lose time in this position.
I
Here he goes,
have
yeah.
a couple of questions. Maybe they're
Yep.
insignificant, but okay. My first question was, uh, we're not worried about b5, right? We just drop back to b3, right? And
Indeed, in this position, you can even play bishop d5. There are some bishop d5 resources. Of course, we are talking about very particular structures. Yeah, this is also quite a nice
yeah, that's
transformation for white.
yeah, and a nice pawn maybe as
Nice
well.
outpost on c6, maybe knight f5 and so on, some pressure on the e-file. So it depends on the specifics of the position. But in this case, but you're right, b5 and bishop b7 is black's card in this position. So white has to be careful about those ideas, for sure, for sure. So that's a very legit question. Yeah.
And also, I guess, yeah, my second question was, because he recaptures with the knight.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering, yeah, I guess it's not good because white is gonna castle long. I was just wondering if it could be an idea to capture with the g pawn toward the center and castle long
Yes.
yourself.
I see. But you see, there are bigger problems in Black's camp if you react like this, and that's of course Sicilian patterns. For example, this knight e6 potential after the bishop sacrifice. I'll just show you sacrifice, yeah? Very Tal-like. Bishop f7, queen h5 check. And you can see that knight is coming to e6 on the next turn. It
Yeah.
won't be fun.
Yeah.
It won't be fun, right? Like king g7, knight e6 is a beautiful fork, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? You just checkmate, by the way. Just look at this. Yeah. So that's a basic problem for black. They are lacking development, so I need to be very careful
Okay.
with those sacrifices early on. Yeah, bishop f7 sacrifices, e6 is a little bit weak, queen h5 is coming. So that's why it's not easy at all for black to defend. Even here, knight e6, beautiful. Queen g6 and so on.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's very advisable for black to rapidly develop his pieces,
Yeah.
control some key squares, and slowly consolidate.
Yeah.
By the way, having said that, bishop h4 is also a good move. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this, yeah? But Tal just wants to play directly, yeah?
He doesn't
Without
like
losing any
his
time.
he doesn't like his dark squared bishops. I'm learning.
Yeah, exactly, right? Also, like in a couple of games so far, we see a trend maybe that he's also a great master with knights, of course. Yeah, tacticians, using your vocabulary, yeah? That's
Yeah.
your vocabulary with knights. We'll see many examples of his knight use. E6 is black's move. Of course, they need to be very careful against this diagonal, very logical move, bishop a7 and so on. But it castles long. This was all of our plan from the beginning.
Yeah.
Rook is developed. This is also a potential target. E5 potentially, f4, e5 potentially. You know, you see some potential for white in this position. Sometimes f4, f5 to soften this diagonal for the bishop and so on. These are some of the very typical ideas for white in those positions. Queen c7, the bishop is already guarded, so we don't need to react to that move. And he goes f4, right? This was all of our plan from the beginning.
Yeah.
Interesting. First game as well, he goes f4. He achieves the same pawn structure. And he's playing for e5 or f5 potentially. Same here. And black, in order to stop e5 from white, they commit a mistake. They play the move
But
e5
now
themselves.
they soften their own diagonal.
Yes. The bishop is happy. And there's one more outpost that is created right now.
Yes.
Yes. That's a d5 square, right?
Mm-hmm.
So positionally, there are huge drawbacks to this move, as you must understand. Also, black is losing one more tempo because they played e6 before, and now they're playing e5 again. That's a very dangerous policy when you fight against Mikhail Tal, right?
Yeah.
With black piece, to lose time in the opening like that. H6, A6.
What's what they're taught with e5?
Their thought is simply to stop white from playing e5 on the next turn, you see? Like if they play bishop e7, for example, they are worried that white might push e5 in this position, which they would potentially.
Yeah.
But black has enough resources if they play carefully in those structures, yeah? To maybe slowly consolidate their position. That pawn is always going to be weak in the long run. So if black can survive the middle game, white has some problems in the endgame.
But in this
right?
position right here,
Mhm.
I just feel like it doesn't look so ideal for black because the knight is on h7 and white has more space. They're castled further on in the game. All of this. Did black do anything wrong?
Well, that's why this is one of the sharpest lines in the Sicilian. Black has to be so careful with how they play and how they handle white's initiative in the center of the board, right? Probably queen b6 might be better. Yeah. But here, I don't think black has played terribly so far. These are all okay moves for black. Potentially b5 and bishop b7 makes more sense.
Yeah.
But here you're right. I mean, if you come back to your senses, I think white is the one who is holding the initiative. And practically, I think it's more difficult to play with black. Because you're always going to be facing this e5 idea. Which was, by the way, one of the points of taking on f6, you see? Because that knight was fighting against this f4 e5 idea. So that's why Tal takes here. And his claim is that after you take back the knight, there is less control on this e5 square. Yeah. So I can achieve my e5 relatively easily in this position.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think even after this line that we looked at, bishop e7, e5, and the machine just agrees, by the way, white is preferred in this position.
So
as they say,
no clear mistakes, but they could have been a bit more.
They could have been a little more accurate with black pieces. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's why they play e5 themselves, because it's like they see all these moves, they see all these ideas from white, and even like he sees probably moves like f5 from Mikhail Tal if he doesn't react. That's why he wants to set the pawn structure themselves.
Yeah.
But now, of course, Mikhail Tal starts to show his wizardry. Of course, you can take on e5, but if you take on e5, you see you're activating that bishop in his position, which Mikhail Tal doesn't want to give to black directly. Knight f5 is also a good move, very typical to play against e6. Because if you take my knight, then okay, yeah, he takes f5, and this pressure is mounting on the e-file, and your good bishop is gone, yeah, and I still keep the outpost on the e5, my bishop is still happy, and so on. White is still better in this position. But Tal plays a very different move in this position. He goes knight d5 here.
Yeah.
He goes knight d5. He exchanges off those knights. Again, the thought is that there's less defender on the king side in this position. That knight is gone, and he's opening up the e-file, you see? The pawn is now pinned on e5. You cannot take it, and your king is still in the center.
Yeah.
And I will be piling up against the pawn on e5. This is the basic claim. Having said that, The bishop is a little bit sad to see this transformation, you see, and even fill the outpost with a pawn in this case.
Yeah.
So these are the downsides, strategic downsides of this exchange. And that's why this is given as a better move for white positionally.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. But that's also a fine move, again, showing his vision for timing in chess. He just wants to open up the e-file because the king is living on e8. Bishop e7 is a good move. They are getting ready for casting short. He takes on e5, and then comes Tal's next move. So he moves the knight.
Yeah.
He moves the knight. Please choose a square for this knight. That's my question.
F5? No, sorry, that is hanging in the knight. I'm sorry.
F5 is now hanging. That's now hanging, yes.
It's maybe. Oh. Maybe it's probably, yeah, I guess if I were playing, I would just play knight f3 or something sensible.
Yeah.
But since
Yes.
you're asking, I feel like it's.
You know, there's a saying in chess: Mikhail Tal's knights never go backward; they always go forward.
Okay, if
There
they
are
go
lots of
forward, then maybe knight b5 would tempo on the queen, and if takes, you take with the bishop with the check, maybe.
Yes, but then they will cover bishop e7, and your attack is gone.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, and then I saw, oh, maybe it could be a potential fork on d6, but only backed up with the rook, so not enough firepower there.
Yes, but you're seeing some potential in the white's position. That's good.
Maybe does since the light squared bishop is a bit unhappy, maybe knight e6 can help soften the diagonal.
Yes, knight e6 makes perfect sense. To make the bishop happy, so we could maybe take this way. We also attack the queen. That's the most forcing move. Can you back this up with very basic calculations? Like, what if they take our knight, for example? Can you see our next move?
Yeah, you have some queen h5 ideas because you don't have that kingside knight anymore. So that's an upside, I guess. But concrete.
Yes, that's very concrete, by the way. Queen h5 check. You should already maybe keep on going because that's an extremely concrete line. You can maybe do this visualization. Takes queen h5 check.
Yeah.
Where's the king going? Where's the king going in that position?
Well, he doesn't really want to go to either side, I think, because of the rooks or the potential of the rooks.
Exactly.
So
exactly. So you smell, yeah, you now understand why he's sacking on e6 in this position.
It looks a bit
He's going for the opponent's king.
Yeah.
He goes knight e6, of course. Yeah, it's a very Tal move. Interesting. Machine likes this move better. But then we'll talk about Tal's psychology. Yeah, he's in Amsterdam, 1964, so he's still quite young. Prime Tal. So he just drops a knight on e6, and the machine gives a very typical 0-0-0-0 evaluation, which is sort of meaningless in a practical game, right? Because his position is far away from 0-0. Like, it's like, how do you defend? The clock is ticking.
Yeah.
Knight e6. Well, in the actual game, they go queen d6, which is a game-losing mistake. Okay, the only move seems to be f e6, typical engine. Queen h5 check.
Yeah.
King d7 is the only move, says the engine.
But that looks dangerous too.
Yes, it looks suicidal, right? Yeah. D takes e6, thank you so much. And the machine doesn't care. The machine goes king c6. Okay, and black is winning in this position, says the engine.
Oh my god, you survived this.
But go figure this in a practical game.
Yeah.
Right? And now we are right in Tal's territory. Yeah. Imagine what are the likelihood of an opponent in a practical game, even strong players, to see this defense in this position.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're already talking about psychological side of his sacrifices. And even here, the game is far from finished. Like, white can, even in this position, throw so many moves. Not to mention, like, maybe queen f3 return, maybe rook f1, maybe bishop d5 check. There's so many things in this position. Yeah. The bishop cannot move. There is, like, the rooks are disconnected. Your king is on c6. And somehow the machine is giving this, like, winning for black.
And you can even stop, even like rook d3, rook c3.
Even rook d3, rook c3. There are so many ideas. Yes. And then gives king b6. The king is fleeing towards a7. Yeah. That's a basic defense setup. The king is fleeing towards a7 in this position. And white cannot stop that.
I guess
incredible, yeah?
You do not have so much firepower on the dark squares, I guess.
Yes, exactly. That's the problem. And if queen f3, again, king b6, I guess. Yeah, because here this check is meaningless because there's bishop c5. and the king is escaping.
Yes.
You just cannot keep the king in the center.
Yeah.
But what are the likelihood again to see this from this position? Once you're facing Tal, the clock is ticking, the guy is smoking, look at your face. You know? Like, it's so hard.
The guy smoking, yeah.
Yeah, the guy is like, also many players used one player, Tal Benko. He was so mesmerized and affected by Tal's gaze during the game that he started using his sunglasses against him. You know, the shady sunglasses that he couldn't see. He couldn't look at his eyes. So his stare was quite famous as well. You know, he sacrifices a piece, drops a knight on e6, looks at you, and then just leaves the table, smoking and so on. Yeah, just imagine that. Like,
But
yeah.
can't you just take on g7 now?
Exactly. So here, this is a game-losing move, queen d6, because Tal takes on g7,
And you can,
and then
yeah.
he drops the knight back to e6, right? That's the basic point. Right? If you didn't take on the last turn, you cannot take it here, surely. And indeed, here white is completely winning, because this comes with attack on the queen, rook f1s are coming, queen h5s are coming. The king has no escape, yeah, in this line.
Yeah.
That's so clear. You can check me, doesn't matter. All the moves are winning for white, but I can just show you one line, yeah, just take, take, take. That's also quite beautiful. Queen c7 check, bishop b3. It's mate until the very end. It's just one of those mates, yeah?
Oh,
All the moves
nice.
are winning for white in this position.
That's very nice.
Yeah, but knight e6 back, of course. Now white is winning. He goes king e8 again, and he keeps the knight on e6. The knight is untouchable. And he's right. He's right. Given your king's location, you can't touch my knight. And we call these knights, as you say, octopuses, yeah? On the 6th rank, on the 3rd rank. Amazing piece, controls everything. Also, never forget, the gist is that black is disconnected. The rooks are disconnected, the king is in the center. Our developmental lead gave us this. Check, king b1, of course, b5, queen h5, he doesn't mind, he attacks the pawn on f7. White is winning, but I'll just show you until the very end. Bishop b3 back. Again, look how long the knight was kept on e6.
Yeah, that's
now he just checks on c7, just the final phase, of course, yeah? Takes d6. Beautiful. Even the bishop is activated in the process. You tempo on the queen, queen d7. Even the final phase is nice, right? It will be nice to, let's say, do this check and take the rook on h8.
Can you just take the bishop?
Exactly. Beautiful. Tal plays this sequence and black resigns in this position.
Yeah, I think I would resign too.
You will resign. He actually resigned on this move. Yeah, that's a miniature, by the way. We are looking at chess miniatures in this session as well. Miniature meaning games less than 25 moves. So he resigned on move 23 after d6.
Yeah.
Because he saw all this. So again, the gist of this game is that he's like Paul Morphy. He's rapidly developing his pieces. He doesn't mind exchanging his bishops for knights, for time-gaining moves. And he just doesn't mind sacrificing. And he doesn't want to go back with his pieces. He wants to move forward with his pieces.
He doesn't move knight backwards.
He never moved his knights back. I mean, there's not a single example, I think, also in today's session, that he makes it like a knight retreat. So it's like, that's why, yeah? Bronstein says, Tal develops his pieces to the center, then sacrifice them somewhere.
This is a very cool move, the knight e6 one.
Yeah, what a beautiful move this is, yeah? And also by looking at those games, you gain more intuition, you gain more, let's say, ideas in your long-term memories. You mentioned that you would only consider a move like this, but now you can consider other moves in similar positions.
But it makes sense, especially after you got rid of the kingside knight, because it gives more mobility to the queen, and also you want to soften the diagonal for your like squared bishop.
So true, so true. Two things. If the knight will be here, there is no queen h5. Plus, can you see this why? h6 is hurting black. The fact that they pushed h6 is hurting black because otherwise they could play g6 here, right? Yes. Imagine the pawn is still on h7. They could play g6 here.
Yes.
But it's no longer possible. So all these things are coming together.
And even the open f-file helps. Even the f-pawn push.
Yes. Even the open f-file helps. And that's also why, yeah, he exchanged off that knight on f6. Again, it's like just like the first game. It's exchanging off the opponent's defenders in a position.
Yes.
That's the basic claim. And also, now I take my word back because I thought that's a chess crime because the bishop is unhappy because of the pawn on d5, right? But see how he makes the bishop happy by placing that knight on e6. And the bishop will be activated in the process if you ever take my knight. So it's just, he also gets the rook into the game and so on by knight sacrifice. All the pieces are gaining power, piece potential and so on.
Yeah.
Dynamics to its core. Yeah, and again, black was on a tightrope. They need to find the only sequence like this to survive. But many people in his era against Tal, even world champions, couldn't find those resources.
Well,
And that's why it's a beautiful game.
it doesn't feel so intuitive to run towards all the enemy pieces, you know, to survive.
Imagine. Yeah, imagine a practical game, right? Like you play like this. Yeah, that's why we say defending is definitely more difficult in chess. Yeah, also practically you're walking on a tightrope. Sometimes you need to just find like 5 only moves to survive, while the opponent has luxury to play different ways. You know, they can base their attack on general principles, sometimes general patterns. Well, you need to be much more accurate and concrete in defending. That's why we say defense is a very concrete business and involves like great calculation skills and so on. And I will show you one of his game segments against Botvinnik, which I read this weekend in Denmark. Tal, he's annotating this game against Botvinnik. In this position, Tal is playing with the black pieces. So Botvinnik played the move knight d1. Okay, that's the game continuation. And Tal writes, while I was looking at this position in a relaxed mind because the game is equal, I was suddenly shocked and I was sweating like crazy by this next move by Botvinnik that he could play knight e3, and I thought I was losing in this position. Because to my mind, says Tal, that once I take on e4, which was my main idea, they will take on f8, I will take on f8, they will take on e5 with their knight, attacking my knight, and I will take on g5 in this position, and they will take on c6, I will take back, and when he was visualizing this position, he was shocked to see that Botvinnik could checkmate him with the move queen takes h7. Right? He's seeing ghosts. He's seeing that white can play queen h7 because he's seeing this knight on g5 as a white piece and not a black piece. Can you see it?
Oh.
He says, I was so tired after the match, like match number 16.
Yeah.
He's so tired in the World Championship match. He starts seeing delusional lines. He starts seeing ghosts. Right? That's what he saw. And he openly mentions this in his book. You know, that's why he's such a humble person. Like he just very openly tells us what he's seeing during the games and how grandmasters are sometimes having this vision.
He just saw the wrong color on the knight.
He saw the wrong color on the knight. So in his vision, this knight was a white knight, and he got mated. So it's like, oh my god, I'm lost. He plays knight d2, I'm lost. I'm busted.
Yeah, but that can happen when you're tired, I guess.
Yeah. So it's such a nice guy, you know. Like that's why these books are gems, because you not only see the moves, but also to see how masters are thinking, feeling during the games. You know, what is going on in their head, and so on and so on. Yeah, so this is it. We'll come back to its Botvinnik match, by the way. Yeah, that's a whole different story. I will show you the most beautiful game in that match, a King's Indian battle, in our next session when it comes to positional sacrifices.
Yeah.
But this one is another King's Indian battle, Mikhail Tal with the black pieces, 1973, against Jan Timman. And Jan Timman was number 4 in the world for a long time. He's a very strong player from the Netherlands. And Tal, first of all, he goes c5. This can come from different move orders. This is already transposing to a Benoni structure as well. You know, Benoni.
If you play
Benoni basically
b5,
is like this. Yeah, Benoni structure is like this. To let's say be more accurate, Benoni structure is this structure. Black has the backward d pawn. They have this g7 bishop. Sorry, if white takes on with the c pawn, this is the Benoni, pure Benoni. g7 bishop, backward pawn on d6, while we have a queenside pawn majority, right? These are the assets for black. We will later on expand on the queen side, maybe with b5, b4, and so on. Maybe put pressure on the pawn on e4 later on with our rook and so on. But white is the central pawn majority.
Yeah.
That's also sort of a close cousin to the King's Indian. So you're a King's Indian player yourself. So I think you should know your relatives, yeah? Your close cousins in the chess opening. So Benoni was also part of Tal's repertoire. He didn't mind getting Benoni positions, which is very dynamic because you're assuming some long-term positional weaknesses, but you compensate them with piece play, right? Like that's the spirit of Benoni as well. This game will turn into a King's Indian once black plays e5 in this position, right? Now we understand why that's a King's Indian position, because we voluntarily shut down our bishop, let's say, but we have these long-term ideas on the king's side of pushing f5 in the process. So it's sort of a c5 King's Indian for us. That pawn is also quite nice because it controls this d4 square from the white pieces. Why do you think he played knight e8 here? What is his plan? Yes. Of course, you're a King's Indian player, so you know it inside out. He goes f5, yeah? Already crystal clear. That's coming. With kingside assault potentially, maybe sometimes f4, g5, g4, and so on. That's our game plan. Knight e1. White prepares for that as well. Knight e3, very typical. He goes f5, and the white player goes f4 in this position.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting too, right? You're used to players playing moves like f3 in this position, which is also an okay move, but he goes in a different way. Because if he goes f3 here, he sees that Tal will play f4 with a storm on the king side.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to face the storm on the king side. So he plays f4 himself. Interesting tension was created in the center of the board, right? These are always interesting moments. Like all fours are looking at each other, all captures are possible. What to do? You know, should we take the pawn? Should we wait? Should we keep the tension? Should we preserve the tension? Should we release the tension? What should we do? What is your intuition? Should we take on f4? Should we take on e4? Or should we play more like queen e7?
I think my intuition says keep the tension. Because I don't see, I feel like both of the recaptures for black are good. If they take on f5, we could take with the g pawn. If they take with their f pawn, yeah, we have enough there as well. So I think I would just keep the tension.
Beautiful explained. Nice explanation. So this is a beautiful part. I really like how you mentioned this because both captures, you have a good way to recapture. And you want to, let's say, preserve this pawn duo in the center of the board. This was your idea. You can even sometimes take on e5 with the knight and so on, but we can, let's say, even this position. You sort of see this and you want to go to this position with the black pieces. Maybe knight d6 and so on. You have a good position. You can also approach it this way. If you take on e4, you're helping the opponent's knight. Now they're getting this outpost on e4. That knight became a happier piece in the process, right?
Yeah, and you also have the backward pawn on d6. It just looks annoying.
Yes, they put pressure. And if you take on f4, it's also an okay move, by the way. This knight becomes happy in the process. You see? So that's why he doesn't take any of the pawns, but he keeps the tension with queen e7. He takes on f5. You're a King's Indian master. Do you take this way or this way?
With the g pawn.
Every Russian schoolboy knows that g takes f5 is the best in the King's Indian, right? Every Latvian schoolboy, should I say. Mikhail Tal. G takes f5, king h1. Yeah, I mean, again, natural move from white. They are escaping this diagonal against bishop d4 checks. Makes some sense. Here again, Mikhail Tal decides to push the pawn to e4 in this position. This makes more sense, right? Because you sort of get this protected passer on e4, which was one of our ideas to keep the tension anyhow, because you say, hey, if you give me a chance, then I can also push and create this pawn on e4, which it does. It's also, of course, helping our bishop over here. Also, this bishop is a little bit restrained by this pawn on f4. That's to black's advantage for sure in this position. And here Mikhail Tal makes a move that might look like a chess crime at first sight.
Yeah, does he give the black dark squared bishop again?
Yes.
He doesn't
Have you
like
seen
them.
this pattern before? Have you seen this pattern before in your life? It looks insane, right? It looks insane at first sight.
Why does he always exchange his dark squared bishop?
Yes, same. Oh my god. We are finding a great pattern so far. All three games. He exchanged off with his dark square bishop for the opponent's knight. It's incredible.
Like them. Like even that beautiful one on that long ridge.
Even a beautiful one, even the beautiful pride King's Indian bishop is given for that knight. That doesn't do much on c3.
He has some personal issues with the dark squared bishop.
He has some personal issues with the dark square bishop. That's a YouTube title for me.
Because I feel
we
like
discovered something new.
If he's worried about the knight on c3, can you just play a6 or something? I don't know.
The knight is right now totally harmless. We'll come back to this, why he exchanged off the bishop for the knight. It's a deeper chess pattern. I saw this first in a game of Bent Larsen or Petrosian. I think Petrosian was the first one who actually showed this exchange, and everybody was shocked when he played that, right? And that's sort of established to be a higher chess pattern. It depends on how you follow this up. It's like, don't try this at home, please, beginners. Yeah, only do this move if you're very careful of your follow-ups. I will come back to it. The first point is this. A couple of points. First point is this. In this pawn structure, this bishop became a tall pawn. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing going on this diagonal. The claim is very simple. Yes, I weaken my dark squares, but your bishop has no access to exploit those dark squares. Can you see also the effect of this pawn on c5? You can't even do this in this position. Your bishop is literally useless in this position.
Yeah.
And that's a big claim. That's a long-term claim for black. That's why it's a very deep exchange. strategic exchange. Yes, you have unopposed bishop, but that bishop is useless. The second point is maybe he was worried about knight d1 to e3 blockade. Because as you know, knights are the best blockaders of the passed pawns in chess, right? This knight could later go to e3 and blockade our pawn while also putting pressure on the weakness on f5.
Yeah.
That's the second point. The third point is much more direct.
Yes.
He's opening up the g file and he will
Yeah.
place a rook on the g file for the attack. Right? So once you weigh all these three advantages, he goes for it. Well, let's check with the engine. Engine doesn't like this so much, as usual. Although having said that, it's like, not so bad. Maybe like second, maybe third best move in the position. You see? So it's not that this knight was a dangerous piece, but it's like much more long-term strategic decision that he's taking with this move. Takes, knight f6. Now those knights are slowly coming to the king side.
Yeah.
Bishop e3 again. The bishop is useless. King h8, right?
Yeah.
He's placing a rook on g8. h3, rook g8. h3 is also interesting. I mean, maybe you don't need this move. I guess he plays it to sometimes prepare g4, taking away some squares from the knight on g4. But also will be a weakening move in some sense, right? Because it just weakens this g3 square as well. He will go on to hurt white. It's not like a terrible move, but I would not play h3 in this position because there's no need to it. Yeah, because if your main goal was g4, I get that, but it will never allow you to play g4 in this position.
Yeah.
Right? G4 is a thought to, let's say, break this pawn chain from black, yeah? Attack the base pawn on a5 and so on, but it will never happen, actually. Queen d2. How does this knight join the attack?
Via g7.
Exactly. He goes knight g7, and you see, those knights are now shooting on this h5 square.
Yeah.
And later targeting the new weakness on g3. So it just starts flying pieces to the king side slowly. And white cannot do much about this. Right? Exchange off that bishop for the knight. You might say, why do we exchange? But again, this is coming on the next turn.
Yeah.
And he wants to, let's say, exchange a pair of pieces as a defending side.
Bishop f2.
But again, bishop f2, yes. He plays bishop f2 to cover this square as well. And again, Tal starts to move this rook into the attack slowly. But for that, the bishop needs to move. So he plays a very natural move, bishop e7.
Yeah.
Please look at the white pieces. They are not in a dangerous position at all. Double pawns are hurting them. It's like a Nimzo-Indian pawn structure. I made a video about this recently, Nimzo-Indian patterns. Yeah, those double pawns are very typical in those structures. And they have no real piece play to play on, even on the queen side. You can play rook b1, but I can play b6, for example. I can cover everything. And I will slowly move my pieces to the king side to attack your king. Bishop b1, rook f8. Can you see his plan?
Yes.
He wants to maybe do this and this, sometimes rook f7, g7. He wants to simply bring more pieces on the king side. Queen f6, looking here, covering f5. Sometimes queen g6. Sometimes even queen h6, as you see. That's what he plays. You see the pawn on f4?
Yeah.
That's a second weakness. Also, he's aligning the king and the queen. That's always nice. g3. And here, he chooses a very simple plan. Before sacrificing, he improves the final piece. He goes to g6. Can you see how step by step he improved every single piece? And can you see, for example, before he played this sequence, he moved the queen to h6. So he first gets the queen to the king side in this position. He doesn't do this directly. He first gets the queen to the king side. So the queen is in the zone, so to speak, puts pressure. And only then he puts the rook on g6. Now, like every single piece, all four pieces are targeting the king side. And the bishop nicely covers here. White is no counterplay whatsoever. They are now passively defending their stuff. Rook g2. And now comes my question. How do we make progress in this position? We are coming to this key Tal moment again. It looks like white is covering the g3 square. There's no direct take on g3. Maybe they will...
Sorry, I'm quiet. I'm just...
Just think. Tell me a couple of ideas to intensify the attack.
This might be a really stupid suggestion.
It can be anything. There's no stupidity in our lessons. Everything is welcome.
I just thought rook g4 could be funny.
G4 could be funny if you're playing checkers, you're opening up the H file, if they take on G4, right? It's not so terrible actually. I mean, even here, if they take on G4, I think we are happy. Having said that, there's no mate. But even this is a thought. Even this is a thought.
I'll try to find some other candidates.
Some other sacrifice, exactly. That's what Mikhail Tal does.
Why can you just not... Oh, I guess the bishop does some defending. Yeah, so I looked at the knight takes g3, of course, but also knight takes f4.
Yes, it's good that you come up with this idea as well.
Knight
Can you
takes
analyze a little
f4.
bit?
It looks interesting because it's very it's forcing. It threatens on h3. It also threatens the rook.
It threatens everything. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering.
Logical breakdown. What could be the basic point of knight f4? Like if you have to just verbalize, why do you sacrifice on f4? What's your?
I kind of want to do it because it you could also potentially retake with the queen on f4. Maybe at some point you can push the f pawn that is blocking the bishop.
Fault that you spotted this as well. That's why I ask you this question. Like bigger picture thoughts. What could be the advantages of taking on f4? You know, that could give us potentially. You're even creating the second passer in the process. Yeah, the queen can move. You can push f4 and so on.
Yeah.
Plus the queen gets active. Plus you're removing the pawn cover around the opponent's king, right?
Yes.
We discussed it as well. Like usually that's a good policy. Just like those bishop h6 sacrifices, you sacrifice the bishop for 2 pawns, right? To weaken the enemy king, to simply remove the pawn cover around the king. That's indeed one of the most typical ways, yeah, to attack the opponent's king.
Yeah.
Because usually you improve all your pieces, then there's an impasse. You need to find a sacrifice. You need a sacrifice to proceed in that position. It's one of those cases, right? Because there is no natural way for black to, let's say, put more pressure on the pawn on g3. Like there is no way for you to simply bring more pieces and win a pawn for nothing.
Yeah.
In those cases, instead of retreating your pieces, look for sacrifices.
Yes.
It's like usually a good policy, yeah? It's good that you looked at knight g3. It doesn't work because of bishop g3. And the queen cannot really do anything. Everything is well guarded, right? Even this, of course, can be analyzed further, maybe queen f4 and so on. But of course, they will do queen g2. They will defend everything. And it doesn't work for us. But that's a candidate for sure. And you improve on that candidate with knight f4. That's the only winning move for black in this position. Again, even black is better after a quiet move like b6. But even on the next turn, you need to find a sacrifice to win. That's a game-winning sacrifice.
But it's a sacrifice that makes a lot of sense, I think.
Yes. That was my basic question, because once you come to this position, let's say after king g1, game continuation, right? Like you already see the compensation for the knight sacrifice. Like huge 2 pawns, central connected pass pawns are created. Their king is not safe at all. They are still exposed. The bishop is blunting that rook, just like in the first couple of games, yeah? You're talking about development again. Their rooks are split. There is coordination loss in your opponent's camp.
Yeah.
Even this knight is loose and so on. That pawn is also vulnerable. And here goes, I mean, there are many moves for black that wins here, but he makes a very natural move. How do you pave way for the f-pawn? Where should the queen move? It's a queen move. It's a quiet queen move, let's say. Where would you place your queen here to put more pressure in the white's position?
Just f3.
Yes, you have a very good intuition about this move. That's why I asked you this question. Good that you found that. You see, very simple queen move. Putting pressure here. Now there's so much tension. Putting pressure here. Plus preparing f4.
Yeah.
You see? Very natural move indeed. Very natural move. And white is totally busted. White cannot move a single piece. The knight cannot move because there's checkmate on g2. If you take on g6, my rook is coming and your king is going to be mated very soon. Otherwise, I will take on h3 if nothing happens, or play f4. You see? Like, you don't even, that's why also what separates Tal sacrifices, because usually he didn't even calculate all the way to the end. He sacrificed the knight for 2 pawns, very typical. I will show you many examples like this. And many people think that, okay, he must have calculated all the way to checkmate. No. These are like long-term positional sacrifices, but he was trusting that his attack was enough. His attack would give him win in the end, you know? It's one of those cases. You don't even need to see queen f3, I would say, before sacrificing on f4.
Yeah.
Yeah? This is more like, much more like long-term,
And I
trusting
guess
your position.
queen f3 isn't the only move either, is it?
Only move, even queen h6 is winning,
Yeah.
says the engine.
What
Yeah?
about oh,
Same
never
thought,
mind.
by the way.
Never mind.
Same thought, like double attack.
Yep.
f4 and queen h3, double attack, and black
Yep.
is winning. Yeah? Queen f3, okay. He plays queen f2.
Mm-hmm.
No queen trade. No queen trade. So he takes on h3.
Yeah.
Right? He won one more pawn. Now he's like 3 pawns for the piece. Very typical again for sacrifice and attacks. So now we are even like 3 pawns in the bank, you know? You don't even need to like, but the game is already over because their king is exposed. And that's coming on the next turn.
So
Take rook b1. Yeah.
I just have a question. Because King in the chat is saying I was debating between queen f3 and queen h6, but queen f3 looks more appealing. I guess that looks more appealing because it's a forward move, right? Because
It's a
the
forward
queen
move,
likes
yeah.
to
It's
be
a forward
close to
move.
the action.
Yes, it also puts pressure here, by the way, yeah?
Yeah.
On top of, it doesn't, I mean, queen h6 doesn't put pressure on the rook. It also does that, just speaks to all the vulnerabilities in the position. It attacks everything, just beautiful. And nobody can chase the queen away. Like, there's no rook f2 because of the pin and so on, yeah? Just so nice. He takes on h3, he goes f4, and white resigns. Timon resigns. Right?
But I feel like I can understand you resign at like I can understand it, but at the same time I feel like it's not very nice to do it because you should allow it to continue.
Yeah. It's funny, the machine gives mate in 19. Of course, they both see mate in 19 right in this position. We have to give them that. No, he didn't see mate in 19, but he just gave it up against Mikhail Tal.
Yeah,
Because
but I feel like it's not nice. You should let him
you
do
should
it.
be a gentleman. Yes, I mean, that's a bigger thought. That's a meta question, you know? Should we, if we play against a strong player, if he plays very nicely, should we allow them to checkmate us? That's a bigger question. And I think the answer is yes. I think that will be gentlemanly to allow that.
Yeah.
Having said that, many people don't want that because they don't want to end in history books with the checkmate on the board in the final position. It's the human psychology. Yeah.
Yeah.
For you see why, yeah? Because if they take, then just checkmate on the next turn, just resigns.
Yeah.
But if you don't take on f4, then once the knight moves, I will take on g2, and the game is over.
Yeah.
If you take on g6, I take, and your king has no squares. The game is over.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Like, indeed, it's a very simple attack. Yeah, once like in hindsight, you can learn tremendously from such examples because like he didn't do something special as well. Just basically move the pieces to the king side. He coordinate them nicely on the king side. Bring every single piece. Remember Alekhine, he never forgets about this final piece. Every piece was doing something in the final position. And then time has come for a sacrifice.
Yeah. What was it you said? You said there's no way to put more pressure.
Yeah, here, for example, right? Like we can discuss.
So in those kind of positions, you can start contemplating.
You can start looking at sacrifice very, very carefully. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are the signals for sacrifice here for black? Again, as I said, you reached the maximum in terms of, you reach your maximum in terms of piece coordination and harmony and bringing all the guys to the king side. It looks like there is no, like, for example, the bishop has no way, to put more pressure on the king side. The bishop is already tied down on that pawn. And all the pieces are doing something on the king side. And there is no natural way for black to put more pressure on g3, even this position. And they can even guard g3 if you play a move like this. There's less pressure on the f4 in this case. For example, queen f2, and everything is guarded in this position. You don't want to retreat, because if you start retreating your pieces, then white also has some cards in long run in this position. They can get the final piece into the game, and that's a final signal. If you keep on waiting, white will improve their position. Maybe some rook b1, b6, a4, a5, right? They will open up some lines and they will activate their pieces. That's also a signal for us, to act fast before your opponent can consolidate.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
These are
I
the
think
signals.
like a knight f4, it just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I will show you a couple of more examples as such, how he sacrificed knights for 2 pawns in a very similar positions. Again, without much deeper calculation. I'm pretty sure his calculations ended sort of here, right? Maybe he saw queen f3 as well. It doesn't surprise me. And I mean, he doesn't need to he doesn't need to see all the resources from white here. What if he does this? What if he does that? Can I play f4 and so on? I think he just came to a very nice conclusion already from
Yeah.
this position. That he smells something. That's also what he writes in his book, by the way. Yeah, I will show you in the second session his sacrifice against Botvinnik, which was like earth-shattering. People in the hall in Soviet Union was like shouting like crazy because they were shocked with that sacrifice. And he's like, I didn't calculate much. That's a purely positional sacrifice, he says. I am trusting my attack by this knight sacrifice for a couple of pawns, you know?
Yeah.
So, of course, how we improve that sense of dynamics, it's about playing so many games, right? Maybe learning from your mistakes and having some talent for attack and so on. Of course, they also have so many like patterns they are built over the years. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
actually maybe I can show you this segment as well. What time is it? Okay, I have time. I have time. You have time as well, right?
Yeah,
You
of
have time as
course.
well. Okay,
I have all day, so you're the one who
beautiful,
has
beautiful,
to
beautiful.
has
I
to
need to
put
pick
on the
up. I need to
brakes.
pick up Oscar like in 1 hour and 15. So I have 1 full hour to discuss. Tal. This is actually a nice segue to his game against Botvinnik. Right? This is the most famous game in this World Championship match, 1960. Earth-shattering game. Still, people talk about this game, and so you don't know this game. Wait, is it the right one?
What is
I
this?
thought this was the King's Indian. No, it's not this one. It's not this one. Wait, I need to fetch that. It's a different game. Let me see.
No worries.
I will find it now. He has so many games in my database.
No worries. It's nice with a little bit of brain break.
Yeah, Brain Break is always nice. Yeah, that's the King's Indian one. I found it. Let me see all the way to the end. Yeah. Are people happy in the chat?
Let's see. King is writing. I also try to think sacrifice and counterattacks before anything else, except king safety, maybe. Well,
Yeah.
I think sacrifice and counterattack before king safety too. I think.
Yes. I mean, of course, right? There are so many reasons for sacrifice. In my YouTube channel, there's even a whole playlist on learning to sacrifice. So I try to lay down all the conditions for good sacrifice in chess. Sometimes they can be positional, sometimes they can be like attacking context. As a strategic player, I'm very much more interested in those long-term positional sacrifices, right? You sacrifice sometimes even a piece, and you don't see exactly what you get in return. But the advantage is like long-term compensation and so on. Yeah? We'll discuss more on this
My
in our
problem
next.
is usually I find good sacrifices. The problem is I stumble in the follow up sometimes. But
Right.
I would rather do the sacrifice and stumble afterwards and learn from it
Yes,
than to
it's
not go
it's
for
very
it.
good that you dare to sacrifice because many people have the opposite problem. They're shying away from sacrifices,
It's
and
like,
that's
okay,
also
if you
limiting for them.
stumble, okay, but if you want to get better and stop stumbling, you need to practice, so just
You
do
need to
it.
practice that. Yes, yes. So I always encourage people to dare more than be cautious
Yeah.
because that's a skill that is very difficult to improve. Once you're too cautious and risk averse, it's difficult, yeah, to improve
So
that aspect. And also as adults and so on,
the
risk averse
thing
people.
the thing I'm the most curious about in this game is if he's gonna exchange the dark squared bishop again.
Yes, let's see, let's see. By the way, this is of course Botvinnik for you. Very strategic player, very positional player, virtuoso from Soviet Union. He won the world championship title 3 different times. He lost three, but he regained title on next year. In those times, the world champion had a right to challenge, if he lost the title, to challenge the new champion on next year, which he did, and he won like 3 different times. So he was like for 10 years, he was always a world champion, losing sometimes, regaining it. So he lost against Tal in 1960 in this match. And on the next year, he won the title back from Mikhail Tal.
I just have
So,
to
and
um
yeah,
sorry. It's just you got a question.
sure.
Uh they're asking about your ravens. Why
Oh,
you
my
have
Raven.
them.
Okay,
But
that's
I can actually answer that question.
please, please.
Yeah, so John is a cognitive scientist. So he used to work with ravens, actually, doing how do you say experiments to understand more about the human brain through experiments on ravens. It's really cool.
Can Raven play chess?
Yeah.
That's my PhD thesis cover as well. That's my life, Ravens and chess. That sort of nicely summarizes my life so far.
I think it's so
Yes,
amazing.
but
It's really cool.
we worked on their planning skills, self-control abilities, marshmallow tests, and so on. I mean, they are very special. They are quite smart. As smart as great apes in most of these tasks. So it was about how evolution of cognition works and why are they so smart and how the whole process functions. And that was main subject that I worked with. A
And one
couple
of
of
them
ravens.
stole your phone once, right?
Yeah, they are. Never enter the raven cage with a phone. That's always a good idea. And they are so mischievous. They're like tricking you all the time.
Yeah.
So never bring money, never bring a phone. It took me half a day to get the phone back from the guy after so many rewards. So, yeah. But yes,
Yeah.
that's a different story. Yes, but I mean, I maybe thinking to reshape my room. I mean, it's been going on for like 3, 4 years. So I'm, discussing potential ideas.
But
Maybe have more like
you haven't put up your Chessable Author of the Year yet?
it's over there. It's over there. It's the blue one. Yeah,
Is it
it's still
framed?
there. It's the blue one. Yeah, over here.
Have you framed it?
This one.
Yeah, you should definitely hang that on the wall, I
I
think.
should have that. Yeah, that's more like professional for YouTube stuff.
But
Probably.
I like the ravens too.
Yeah, that's it's so hard to say goodbye to ravens. That's why I'm like, what should I do? Maybe
Okay,
I should talk to
and
ChatGPT about that.
chat has some more questions.
Yeah.
They're saying, I'm going a bit off topic, but what are your recommendations for psychology books? That is a broad question, I guess.
That's a big question. I mean, we can spend the entire hour on that question. I already made a couple of podcast episodes on that. Check my channel, Dr. John Chess YouTube podcasts. There's one guy called Benjamin Porto. We discuss chess psychology. He's a sports psychologist, performance coach. We discuss all the mental side of chess in that episode. So that's much more easier
Yeah,
to
and
go and watch
your
that.
podcast is quite interesting as well. It's the Chess Cognition podcast. So if you're
Yes.
that's like the perfect mix if you're interested in psychology and chess.
Yes.
That's the perfect thing.
Like we are discussing psychology in this session as well, because it's just discussing Mikhail Tal's way of playing chess. He doesn't care so much about maybe objective evaluations, but he just puts pressure on the opponent all the time. Just always finds ways to disturb them in a practical game. And most people falter. Yeah. I mean, in some sense, it's like that, right? Like just puts pressure on you. You just need to find only moves to survive and so on. And it's never easy for humans to deal with that. Also against Botvinnik, especially, he was very conscious about that because Botvinnik, as I say, is a very strategic player, positional player. He wants methodical and scientific games. He's a great endgame player, But if chaos is on the board, if you disturb him in terms of creating some chaos, some tactics maybe, then he can easily lose focus.
I have been
So this was
disturbed. I have been disturbed many times in chess tournaments, but mostly by opponents who are eating very loudly or something. I get very disturbed.
yeah. Okay, that's a whole different story, right? Like the chess etiquette and what should we do while we're playing games and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different question. At that time, of course, people used to smoke.
Yeah.
Imagine like they're, they're blowing smoke to your face after their move and so on. I mean,
I
that would
guess
be hard.
that is not legal anymore.
That's not legal anymore. That's very good. Botvinnik, by the way, worked intentionally. He was not a smoker. He hates smoking. But while I was training chess, he asked his seconds to smoke and blew smoke to his face because he was simulating real game environment in his training. He was like, he was, he was intentionally disturbing himself in those training sessions to prepare for real fights.
I have a
Yes.
question too.
Yep.
Because I am a King's Indian player, and
Yep.
I reached this position many times, but c3 is usually not a move I'm playing. Am I doing something wrong?
That's fine. This is, by the way, the most solid approach, let's say, against the King's Indian. Fianchetto structure from white, very typical Botvinnik. It's harder to attack their king in the structure. Yeah, our usual stuff doesn't work on the king side.
Then I'm
But there are
definitely
different
doing
ways.
something wrong because I do that, and I feel like it's easier because the shield is closer. It's easier to attack. No.
Nope,
No. Okay.
I'm waking you up from your dreams. The usual stuff doesn't work against Fianchetto.
Maybe
Right?
that's why I keep losing.
Right. It's maybe even not so common at your level right now, but I used to play like this with white as well. So I know a couple of tricks from the white side. Given black's advantages, it's strike in the center. Sometimes we go c6, queen b6 to attack the central structure. We need to be more flexible. Sometimes rook e8, to ask white to decide on the structure on the center. It's a very rich opening, actually, for both sides. There are different ways. c6 also is designed to take away d5 from this knight, also blunting that bishop on the fianchetto, right? And maybe preparing queen b6 in the long run to attack d5.
Okay, I'm definitely not
That's much more
playing.
flexible.
I'm definitely
Yeah.
not playing this right then.
No, okay. Yes. Botvinnik plays h3, very typical, because he wants to play bishop e3. He doesn't want to see knight g4. You see, if they go bishop e3, keep it in mind. As a King's Indian player, knight g4 is a good move. Attack the bishop, put pressure on d4, prepare f5, and so on. So h3 is very typical. Also creating one more luft for his king. Queen b6. Typical and main line. He wants to ask white in pushing d5, because if bishop e3, then they will take on d2. You see? That pawn is hanging. So it's sort of disturbing white again in the center of the board, keeping it flexible. If they go d5, we are happy, because they are sort of closing the center. They are giving us some good squares for our knight, for example, on c5. We will put pressure on their central structure. We can go a5. You know this, right? The King's Indian player.
No.
a5 is very typical to cement your knight on c5.
Yeah, of course, I know that one.
That's very
I know
typical,
that
yeah.
pattern. But yeah, definitely not playing this right.
Okay.
There is a question also about some King's Indian opening theory. Can maybe come back to it later, or should we take it now? Or
Yeah. What are the questions?
I actually wonder about it a bit as well. I wonder where the idea of castling queenside as white, having the queen bishop battery and going h4 h5 in King's Indian games. I see that in many intermediate games, but never in professional ones.
There was some break in sound, but I guess you mentioned
Oh,
h4 h5 against the King's Indian from white.
yeah, and if white castles queenside, and then they have the queen bishop battery, and then they go h4 h5.
Yes.
They see
Yeah,
it
but I mean,
a lot in
the
intermediate.
theories evolved so much. Theories evolved so much across the years. So
Yeah.
there are, of course, ways for white to be smarter. They don't usually castle their king on the king side and wait for an attack from black, right? Like many players don't do that anymore, and that's probably very smart. But then black is also flexible. Sometimes black doesn't castle short in those cases. When you feel like they can attack you on the king side, sometimes you can keep it flexible. Sometimes you can castle queen side or keep the king in the center. And you see, be more flexible, either in the center of the board. Sometimes you can play for c6 ideas, like in this case. Keep it fluid and flexible as well. Is a good policy against those structures.
But
When white delays.
isn't that even the idea in the same-ish?
Yes, in the same issue, usually the idea is to play f3, later on g4, h4, h5, and so on.
And you castle long in the same-ish too, I think.
Yes, it's a whole different game. Then
Yeah.
black plays for t6, sometimes b5, yeah, to open up lines on the
So
queen side.
actually, I got
right.
this. Maybe you know Robert Ramirez.
Yep.
He's a chessable author. I saw a YouTube video from him because I kept getting crushed in the same-ish. So I did so what he recommends is actually just castling long as
Yes.
black, because white doesn't know what to do then.
Exactly. As I said, you should keep it flexible. You should not be a target of their preparation that easily, yeah? It makes perfect sense. It's all about flexibility in the opening theory, modern times. It used to be much more or less known, of course. People used to play the Orthodox King's Indian for a long time with the white pieces because they didn't believe in the King's Indian. You know, that's how it evolved. Nobody believed in the King's Indian like in the 40s or 50s. Because, I mean, white is all the space, white is enjoying the space advantage, black's bishop is terrible on g7. I mean, what are you getting in return?
Yeah.
But then all the new ways were found in terms of dynamical play. Thanks to these masters like Mikhail Tal, Petrosian, and others, King's Indian was revived as a dangerous weapon, especially in practical game. Modern engines doesn't like it, by the way, for black still, because they overvalue space advantage for white. But that's also quite interesting because psychologically it's not easy to defend in those positions.
I have a lot of games with the King's Indian where the engine doesn't really believe or like my position almost the entire game, and then you just suddenly win.
Exactly. You just suddenly win. That was also my experience as a white player. Even in those positions, I sometimes got mated as white. So you need to be careful to handle black's initiative. You see, so he basically forces d5. He's playing in the center of the board. He fixes the central structure, and then he plays knight c5. He's not playing as if, knight e8, f5 business so much, but he just basically disturbs them in the center of the board. Very flexible play.
Yeah.
And even this bishop e3s are disallowed because of queen b2 and so on.
Yeah.
Knight e1. The idea is to exchange the pair of knights, also defending their pawn on e4. Very typical.
Yeah.
Bishop e7, flexible. Botvinnik sees the good knight, sees the bad knight, simply wants to exchange off those knights. Makes sense. Takes. Rook fc8. You see? Maybe you have not seen this pattern as well.
But why that rook?
Yeah. Interesting question. Why this rook?
You want to play on the queen side?
Yes. Slowly you want to play on the queen side. I don't think there's something terrible about rook c8 as well. It's actually sort of similar. I think you will eventually transpose because you will eventually double your rooks on the c file.
Okay.
But I'm showing you a different way, yeah, to handle those positions because he sees the only open file. There's only a single open file, and he starts piling on the c file.
Yeah.
Very flexible play. And he plays rook b1 to defend b2 so that the bishop can improve and go to b3. Knight h5. You see, Tal's knight is eyeing some key squares. He's disturbing the plan of f4, but also more importantly, he's preparing this f5 break. Right? f5 at some point will disturb white's play, and we will also try to activate our bishop this way. Because if you ever take on f5, then our bishop will improve in the process.
Yeah.
So again, the idea is to keep it flexible.
Yeah, but then also I do not understand why you move the f rook and not the a rook if you want to go for the f break.
Very good question. Very good question. What could be the function of this rook on a8 then, you might say, yeah? Why are you keeping it this way? I don't see it exactly what's the point of keeping the rook on a8 in this position.
And especially if you're going for the f break, isn't it better to have the rook in f5?
Makes perfect sense. I try to understand what could be wrong with this. Can't we play the same way, like that? Bishop e3. In this position, maybe, you see after bishop e3, that pawn could be hanging in some lines, you see? Let's say you go queen d8, and sometimes they can take on a7. Sometimes. Maybe not directly, but sometimes that pawn could be vulnerable.
Okay.
Let's say it moves like knight b5 even, you see? They're attacking those targets.
Okay.
So that's the only justification of keeping a rook on a8. You're right. You're right.
So Tal,
He sees that.
Tal cares about the 8-7
Tal cares about his exactly. Well, if it's a world championship match when the stakes are so high, and when you play against Botvinnik, he's a great endgame virtuoso. If you lose a pawn, there's no return, maybe.
Okay, that
right?
makes a lot of sense.
That's the goal.
It makes sense.
Knight h5, preparing f5, bishop e3, queen b4, keeping the queen in the center on the queen side for the moment. The queen is still okay, safely placed because if you go a3, there's queen b3. The queen is safe.
I feel like I would be a bit scared to play the queen there because it looks like
it looks like it's harassed. It will be harassed.
Yeah.
But you see very concretely, there is no easy way for white to attack the queen. Because you see the bishop cannot attack, the knight cannot attack it. There's only a single pawn, but then you're giving me new avenues, like on b3. The bishop is a bad piece, this bishop. You see, the bishop has no way to harass the queen either. That's a bad bishop, hemmed in by their own pawn on e4. Again, the idea is to keep it flexible. Now, if knight moves, then there are some rook c2 invasions. He might be flexible, doubling up on the c file, and so on and so on. He doesn't give any play to white on the queen side as well.
But why do you
just to show you different ways to play it?
Why do you want to go for the f break? Doesn't that just help the white light squared bishop?
Yes, but even after they take on f5, it's blunted by the pawn on d5. Can you see it?
Yeah.
That bishop has no future. Even if you take on f5, it's still a blunted piece. But my bishop will gain avenues if you ever take on f5.
Yeah.
That's a basic plan. Right?
Yeah.
Queen 2. He first plays rook c4, doubling up, potentially eyeing e4 as well. Very flexible. By the way, this rook is loose, but everything is taken care of tactically. Because a3, queen b3.
Yes.
That's his idea. He keeps the rook protected, and the queen cannot be harassed. Rook c8. Final piece, putting pressure. Finally, f5 is on the board. Finally, f5 is on the board, and Botvinnik takes on f5. Does it work for us? It's much more direct blunder check.
Yeah, I know the knight is hanging, but
okay, that you saw it.
I was just wondering if there was some trick.
Maybe even that, yeah.
Yeah, but isn't it a problem? Because even if you take with the bishop, g4, if you take with the g pawn, queen takes...
Bishop takes the game continuation because you attack the rook. That's important.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
Of course, g8 takes f5 is desirable, but it doesn't work because of this.
Yeah.
That's exactly why Botvinnik played queen e2, by the way. He's a prophylactic player, right? He's already anticipating f5. So
Yeah.
after takes, you can't take back with the pawn. You see?
Yeah.
Deeper prophylaxis.
That's
And
nice.
then comes f5 takes.
Yeah.
The bishop improved, and even this bishop now has potential. You will see why in the actual game, right? So, rook we go.
Potential to exchange itself, you mean?
Potential to exchange something like I hope not. I hope not. No, no, no. And here comes the key moment. It's move 21. This is the move that signaled what a player Tal was. And the players, audience in the hall were just going crazy when they see this move. They were shouting like crazy.
They were shouting?
Yeah, because at that time, it was like a big hall, like a cultural center in Soviet Union, in Moscow most likely. And there were like audience following it, right? Like in a live setting. And when they see this move, they were like, big shout. People were just shocked. They were just telling each other. They were like totally mesmerized to see Tal's next move.
Really? So it's like a
Yep.
beautiful, or like a very
It's an amazing
shocking
move.
move then?
It's a very sharp move. First of all, start with this question. Are you facing a threat right now? What would white play if you don't make a move?
Good question. Yeah, still the g4 thing, because now the
Yes.
rook is moved, so
Yes.
you have
So
a
now
fork.
g4 is a real threat.
Yeah.
If you start retreating your pieces, let's say knight f6 to pay this threat, then maybe they can still play g4. That's what Tal wrote in his book. And then let's say knight e4 slowly. They will slowly, gain this beautiful e4 square and consolidate this position, slowly but surely. And there's no way out for us. There's no easy way for us to activate.
Yeah.
So Tal doesn't want to retreat, as you know. Tal's knights don't retreat, as you already know.
Yes. So yes, it's nice. I just want to look at both of them before I say anything. I don't. This is. It's quite hard to see, right? It's not easy.
You don't need to calculate everything to the end. That's not what Tal does. Tal smells dynamics in the position. Tal smells that a sacrifice is possible, and he plays it without so much deep calculation. But what is that candidate move that should be analyzed from black? What is that potential knight sacrifice
Knight
that...
f4.
Yes. So first of all, even to spot knight f4 takes a good player,
Yeah, but it's forcing because it
Mhm.
threatens the queen, and also if it's recapturing happens there, then you soften the king wall a little bit, right?
Yes. Again, just like in the last example, the king wall is softened. Plus, there is one more big thing in the position in terms of new dynamics, new possibilities. Like which piece is getting happy in the process?
Your bishop.
Yes, our beautiful king's Indian bishop is awakening in the process as well. And this counts with a tempo on the bishop as well. It's not easy at all for the bishop to find a square in that position. But it takes real guts to play this move in the World Championship game, right?
Yeah.
This is game 6. He was already up one game, but it's still, stakes are high, risk is high, and he plays knight f4. First of all, even I just put on the board knight f4, and you can imagine, people's reactions to this. What? Like, what the hell is going on? It's a long-term sacrifice, he says. He didn't see so many moves. He didn't calculate so many lines. But he felt it. He felt that there was something there in the position.
Yeah.
Again, because the alternative is not so nice, he doesn't want to retreat, there's g4 threat. You might, again, think about this way. He felt like if he plays slowly, Botvinnik, the virtuoso, will take over the game.
Yeah.
Strategically take over the game.
Yeah.
Maybe that's also ease things for him, a little bit.
It brings it more into his territory then, instead of bringing it into his territory.
So nicely put. Now we are playing Mikhail Tal kind of a game. And everything is changed. Like all the structure, everything Botvinnik was planning for has changed. It's a whole different game that is now starting.
And he
with
has
whole
the
new dynamics.
initiative.
Yes, and he
Instead of
captures the
having
initiative.
it.
His king is not so safe. This bishop became alive. And even this bishop, there's no easy way to escape, you see? Like there's no bishop e4, there's no bishop c5. Seems like there's only a single square for the bishop. And then you start seeing some downsides of it too, you see?
Mm-hmm.
You don't sound, maybe at the very least, I can take on b2 in the process.
Yeah, Chat mentioned that as well, b2.
Which would also soften the entire diagonal, soften that knight, and so on. My bishop is also nicely covering against rook b1 ideas. You see, even without calculating 10 moves in depth, we start seeing potential for the black pieces.
Those
And why
bishops are
anybody could go.
those bishops are very nice.
Yes. By the way, Engine thinks this is the second best move for black in this position. Close second to the best move, knight f6, but very close second.
Yeah, because Engine wants to retreat. They don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But again, even Engine sort of approves it. Yeah, just one of the better moves for black in this position.
Yeah.
But that takes a real gut, yeah, to see this as a candidate to play it at this very moment. And now the game is starting again. Bishop d2. Later on, it was found, even by Soviet players, that white had a win in this position. And the only way for white to win is a3. Why? Because you want to take on a7. The problem is b6
Yes.
is troublesome for white. And the
Yes.
bishop is trapped, will be taken on the next turn.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start with a3 first, you disturb the queen. And then you can take on a7. Because after b6, you see, the queen cannot be turned here and attack the bishop. And white's a very strong move, a4. With knight b5 to follow, and the bishop is safe. You can even rescue with a move like a5, and you simply have an extra piece with a winning position. There is no queen b2 either, because my queen guards b2. You see? But that's the only branch for white from this position to c. That's the only winning line. And it's not easy at all, even for Botvinnik, you see, to see this and to enter this line voluntarily. Clock is ticking. Even here, Tal saw some lines like bishop e5, for example, looks menacing. f3 is the only winning move. Again, white has so many candidates. This fails. Other moves failed. Only f3, which blunts the bishop, by the way, which buries the bishop. That's the only winning move. And then b6, you need to find a4. And that's the only move, only branch that works for white.
This is not easy to find
figure.
at all.
Just like in the first game, you remember? They need to find the move king d7, c6.
Yeah.
Very similar. Like white needs to find maybe 3 only moves that look unnatural to refute Tal's sacrifice. And that's also a huge part of his sacrifices. He simply makes it more difficult for your opponent to find those resources. Bishop d2, Botvinnik plays this. Take on b2. By the way, bishop e5 was even stronger. Even stronger. The bishop is shooting on the king. And you get a better version because f3 blunts the bishop. Then you take on b2. That's a better version.
Question from the chat is question from the chat is I was thinking about it too, but how about we play f3 first ourselves, but they can just take it, yeah?
We are coming there very soon.
Okay.
We are coming there very soon, my friend. So you will see Tal play the very similar move to what is just mentioned. Queen b2, rook b1, good move from Botvinnik. That's what he saw, by the way. He wants to sacrifice the exchange in his position to disturb black. You see, because he already had an extra piece, he doesn't mind this bishop to be traded off for that rook.
No, it's a strong bishop.
Yes. And here comes Mikhail Tal's move as well. He plays the move f3. Engine doesn't like it so much. Engine likes bishop takes b1 better. But with best play, white is the one who is preferred after knight b5 especially. Again, that's a difficult move to spot from afar. But white is the one who is better in his position. Black has nothing much. But to, again, confuse Botvinnik, Tal includes the move f3. And this is the move that wins the game ultimately because Botvinnik couldn't find the only branch again that could win the game. f3 is a very strange move, right? I mean, my queen is hanging and I'm just attacking your queen. I'm just creating a counter-attack to your queen in this position. It's a very funny move, while also creating this e5 square for my bishop.
Yeah.
Again, the idea is that if the queen takes on f3, I will take on b2.
Yeah.
If you take on b2, game continuation, we'll come back to this moment. I will take on e2, and black is winning in this position.
Yes.
So the only way for white that could win this position was the move bishop f3, exclaim, bishop b1, rook b1, exclaim, queen c2, bishop e4, exclaim, right? Attacking the queen, and the queen needs to move. If you take on e4, knight takes e4, exclaim. Sacrificing rook, by the way. Can you see it?
Yeah.
And then knight d6, exclaim. Like, this is just one of those lines that Engine is giving us. that involves a rook sacrifice eventually. White is down in exchange right now, but white is winning because of these double attacks, double threats.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, go figure. Like go figure this in a practical game.
Yeah,
Bishop
I don't think
f3,
that is so easy, no.
not easy at all. Also, black can always induce this bishop e5 check any moment in this line. So
Yes.
Botvinnik not only need to see this branch, but also see all the combinations. What if black plays bishop e5 to guard the pawn on d6 against knight e4, d6 ideas? You see? It's so hard to see this, visualize all these branches. Clock is ticking. Very similar to the last example. He's forcing the opponent to find the only branch that involves 4 only moves that refutes his sacrifice. Again, machine doesn't mind, +3 for white, says the engine. But go figure, yeah? Because even here I can induce this check first, and then I can do queen c2. Same, again, bishop e4 is a winning move. Takes, you're losing. Otherwise, the queen is trapped. You see? The queen is trapped in this position, like after bishop e4.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But here again, you need to sacrifice the rook, but then comes knight d6 anyway, and that's the craziest part. Because even in this line, that bishop is guarding the pawn on d6, white sacked the exchange to win, and white needs to find the move knight takes d6.
Yeah,
Can you see it? Double attack again, attacking the rook, attacking the bishop, and if the bishop takes the knight, then bishop queen e6 check, double attack again, and white is winning in this position. As you say, like disgusting engine lines. Yeah, it's like
disgusting engine lines.
It's a disgusting engine line in some sense. I mean, it's a very low chance for anybody to find, given white has so many choices. Even imagine as a white player, you can take with the queen, you can take with the bishop, you can take the queen on b2. There are several options. Like, how do you find the only move that wins?
And
because nobody was telling you
options,
that
the
there's
bigger
only a
chance
single
to
move.
go wrong, right?
Yeah, it's one of those Tal sacrifices, even starting from here. And even the second one is a very Tal kind of sacrifice. Objectively wrong, but practically so powerful.
Yeah.
And that's a very beautiful point, yeah? Because you're giving a choice to the opponent. I think that's the key part. By playing like this, you're giving a choice to your opponent to go wrong. Right?
Yes.
That's beautiful. That's all about practical chess. That's all about, yeah, like practical part of playing this game and finding all these hidden resources.
So did he play b-takes?
Yes, he just took the queen because he wants to go to the endgame, right? Because he's an endgame virtuoso. He thinks that Tal doesn't want to play the endgames. The problem is, this is a great endgame for black. Because you see, black is right now down a piece still, but there's so much pressure on that knight, on the c-file. Also, this pawn is huge on a2. The bishops are amazing. So white needs to give the material back instantly in this position. Rook b3. He thought everything is well guarded. The knight is well guarded. 3 defenders, 3 attackers. It looks like you can't put more pressure on that knight as well. But then Tal finds this beautiful move d4. Well, attacking the bishop plus introducing those ideas potentially, yeah? Takes followed by rook d1 ideas. The pawn is huge.
Yeah.
And white is no way to save. It's just so important. Bishop e5 check also. Improve the bishop with tempo. Also nice. The king is driven to the first rank, strengthening those ideas down the line. Just look at the white pieces. Even the bishop is grounded by the pawn on d5. The knight is terrible. It's pinned. Like look at black's pieces and piece coordination. They are down material, but completely lost for white. Bishop f4. Some nice tactics to conclude. The rook is tied down on the bishop, also on the knight on c3. So Botvinnik needs to give the material back in this position. Like rook b1, for example, rook c3. Can you see it?
Yes.
Rook d1 is
I
on the
was
next
looking
turn.
at that possibility earlier. Like you can take
Rook
the
d1, just the game was over.
Yeah.
Even, you see the effect of the pawn on e2 in the final picture.
Yeah, those
just
pass
so
pawns
nice.
are so powerful. Just like
So powerful.
Yeah.
A pass pawn on the second or seventh rank, they induce all these ideas, all these tactical ideas as well. It's so beautiful. And even the king cannot, come to f1 to fight against the pawn. It's so deadly. Yeah, so it just takes on e2. Now Tal has different ways to win, but of course that's the most convincing. You take on c1 with this idea. So we are getting the piece back with check. So now if you come back to your senses, black has an extra pawn in this position, right? So smoke has cleared. You have an extra pawn. Plus the bishops are beautiful. Your bishop is pinned. The king cannot even unpin your bishop because of my bishop on e4. Just disastrous.
Terrible.
Terrible, yeah?
You have a question.
Yep.
Wasn't rook d1 working instead of bishop b4? No, bishop
Instead of
f4. Wasn't rook d1 working instead of bishop f4?
Yeah, rook d1 might also work, but the problem is they won't take back with the knight, but they will take back with the rook in this position, you see? So they actually, they only gave the exchange, but they won your beautiful pawn on e2 in this case. Rook c1, bishop f3, I think that's important. And they guard everything this way.
Yeah.
But even this should be analyzed, you're right, because maybe even bishop c2, right? Even this should be analyzed actually, as a real candidate. Wow, apparently bishop b2 is a good move. Counter-attacking the rook, and you're surviving somehow in this position. Rook takes b7, you can even give the final piece back, because you see, we're still enough material in this position as white. And that's just an equal endgame apparently. Yeah. Of course, this part is totally about tactics and calculating different ideas and so on. Apparently rook c3 was also winning in this position, instead of bishop f4. That was a winning move.
I guess
For
they
the same idea.
I guess they had a lot of fun analyzing this game after they were done.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Black has so many ways to win for the same idea. Look at the effect of this pawn, by the way. Yeah, so Tal somehow missed this shot, but even this was good enough in a practical game. Once smoke clears, we reach this position, as mentioned. Right? It's like, well, extra pawn for black.
And bishop pair.
And bishop pair. And much better pieces. One more pawn is gobbled. Bishop c4. Botvinnik resigned in this position after king f7. Okay, apparently doesn't resign. He should resign more or less, yeah, because I mean, like, come on, like, Tal is a great endgame player as well. King d6. He's supporting his pawn with the king in the process. The final pawn is slowly rolling. Exchange, exchange, transition to rook endgame with a much better king. Their king is cut off, and that pawn is huge. c3. It's funny, yeah? After such a game, the game is decided in a rook endgame. And that connects to our team as well, right? Like, sometimes you have to be so flexible that you can sometimes attack to win something small and convert in an endgame like that.
That's important.
So they're like great players in that sense, like all around good players. But this already, like, this is the most famous game in that match, shows us his vision for smelling some dynamics, and that's totally about dynamics in the sense. He wrote himself, he didn't calculate much before the sacrifice. He simply didn't just want to retreat his knight back, and he just saw all these potential ideas for black, and he trusted himself that he could find something in these complications. Right? It's also about trust and brave chess in some sense.
Yeah, definitely.
That you cannot control everything.
And also he kept his dark squared bishop. I'm shocked.
He kept his dark squared bishop. He didn't want to, he didn't take the knight on c3.
That's very flexible.
Very flexible, yeah. So don't always trade off the dark squared bishop. He's going on in his brain. He's a very flexible player.
No, but I really liked it, and I really enjoyed the queen e2 move from Botvinnik.
Queen 2 from Botvinnik, yes. It's a prophylaxis.
The strategical prophylaxis to
Sure.
avoid those central
Very
pawns.
important. Very important that he prevented f5, g takes f5 option. And even king h2 is a very smart move, very typical, controlling all the squares and sort of anticipating f5. The king is quite safe. But then comes Tal's wizardry in this case. Again, this position was subject to so much analysis. Yeah, still many people are talking about this position. Oh, Botvinnik could have won this game. Tal's sacrifice was unsound, Like, many people were just criticizing him. Like, oh, okay, it's just unsound sacrifice. Botvinnik could win the game, like he's a patzer. No, right? As we discussed, like, even the winning line is so hard to figure out with all these details in a practical game.
I think it makes sense as well. Instead of retreating, handing the initiative to white, and if you said Botvinnik is a very strong strategical player, why not bring the game into your own territory?
That's exactly what he did in this game, and that brought him so much reward. And then he was up 2-0 in this match, huge lead. Then it was 3-0. It became 3-2. But then he won a couple of more games, It was very close at some point, but then he just a breakthrough game, a couple of games. And he won the title like 5-2 or something. And then the next year he lost it again. But again, he already had some kidney problems that year. He was, by the way, the youngest world champion when he took the title. He was only 21 or something, if I'm not wrong. Maybe 22 when he won the title. Like imagine you're so young, you know?
That's impressive.
Incredible. Yeah. And it's sort of they say he started playing chess in a relatively late age, you know, he was not like a child prodigy in some sense. And he hit a gigantic rise, sudden rise in the chess world.
Yeah.
Once he so it was very rapid. Also in some sense also is a talent, you know, talent in a way that yeah, it was quite fast in some calculations, maybe some intuition about attacking chess and so on. But he also did his homework, obviously. You know, he was the all-around great player.
Yeah.
He was working his chess every single day. He was very serious, and but he's such a big legacy in the chess world. You know, Mikhail Tal.
Mm-hmm.
And this one final game I will show you just very
Yeah,
briefly.
I was gonna ask you, do you have time for one
I
more?
need to leave like in 20 minutes, but
Okay.
just one funny anecdote: Tal versus Najdorf. And Najdorf was also a funny man. He was a very social human being. He used to talk to anybody, and sort of a banter going on as well. So the story goes that he was playing as Tal in this game, and they met before the lunch. I mean, they met during the lunch before the game. So Tal was just thinking what to play against Najdorf. Najdorf came and he told Tal, I will accept all your sacrifices. You can throw everybody to me. I will accept all your sacrifices and beat you today. He told Tal, right?
That's a
And we'll
dangerous
see.
thing to say, I feel like.
Don't provoke the lion, as we say, yeah? Don't talk to bear. And we'll see how the game went. It's 1960 Olympiad, by the way. It's a chess Olympiad. It's the same year Tal became the world champion. So Najdorf was trying to discombobulate the world champion, yeah, the young Mikhail Tal, with his little remarks. Najdorf plays a Najdorf structure, Scheveningen and Najdorf. Najdorf with the black pieces, Tal with the white pieces. Again, Tal, very rapid development. He had a good score against Sicilian, of course, with white pieces. Bishop e3, f4. I also brought this game because you like to play f4 structures as white. Yeah. You see, all three games so far we looked at, he likes to get these couple of pawns in the center. Couple of ideas, e5 or f5. b5, queen f3. I guess he's castling long. Bishop e3, very typical. Flexible, sometimes you can go e5, sometimes you can castle short in those positions. Guarding e4 as well, in case they go b4, you can retreat your knight. Having said that, knights, Tal's knights never go backwards, so maybe we'll actually sacrifice on d5. We will see the sacrifice in our next session, by the way. Knight d5 sacrifice in the Sicilian. Castle short, bishop e7. I'll just show you very quickly because we don't have much time, but in that key moment when a sacrifice takes place, queen h3, you see, he starts shooting on the pawn on h7. Yes,
E5 makes so much sense.
exactly. Maybe rook f3 as well, down the line, couple of ideas. Maybe even g4, g5 is an idea on the king side. Yeah, very typical in those positions. Queen. By the way, he played a3. Why? Because he doesn't want to see b4 from black, because that knight is defending the central pawn. Okay, so that's a time worth investing, let's say. Queen c7, rook e1. He doesn't forget about the final piece. The rook is supporting potential e5s down the line. Knight c5. Very similar to what we saw today in the first game. Putting pressure here, putting pressure there. Bishop f2. Tal wants to improve the bishop on h4, right? Also paving way for the rook to have an influence in the game. Now e5 is introduced. You see, he's just introducing a little idea of e5. And that's enough to sort of take Najdorf from his comfort zone. He feels like he needs to react to this move. That's why he plays d5 himself. Which is objectively a mistake. The best move is just to keep the tension and play rook e8. Because e5, you have chances to fight against this. But this again involves very precise calculations. The cold-blooded engine sees black is better after taking on d3. But to a human, this is tricky because you need to calculate all these replies from white against this. You know? So of course he can't see this in the game. He wants to stop this by playing d5. But then comes Tal's moment. He doesn't play e5. This is more logical maybe, but because Najdorf's goal was to play knight e4. And he's shutting down the bishop on this diagonal, gaining some stability in the center of the board. Having said that, white is still slightly better in this position. Tal takes on d5 first. Take on d3. Take. They're coming to the key moment. Take. And take on d5 with a pawn. You might say, why not taking back with the knight? That's much more logical for black, right? Because they are keeping the knight on the outpost. They don't disturb their structure. What's wrong with knight e5? This is much more about tactics. This is much more about engaging in some short calculations to win a pawn in the process.
Oh, my specialty. Winning pawns.
Winning pawns.
I don't care about those.
You're a pawn hunter yourself, I know.
Um, I don't know. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, exactly. What's wrong with that? You can take advantage of this knight move in a couple of moves.
You can take advantage of it.
Yes, the placement of the knight and the entire structure from black is not stable. You will disturb them with this next move. It looks very stable structure, right? Everything is protected, beautiful, outpost on d5, better position, better pawn structure.
Yeah, just...
We need to justify it.
I'm not
Board
quite
vision as well. This involves looking at the entire board.
I'm not quite sure what is the issue. Yeah, I'm not sure what is the issue. Like, okay,
One hint for you, knights, Tal knights never go backward. So that's a forward move with the knight.
Oh.
What could that be?
Oh, okay. Knight takes e6.
We saw this one before today, right?
Yes.
Another knight e6 sacrifice.
Yes, and then you take back with the queen on e6 if they take.
Boom!
Yeah.
Followed up with knight, queen takes d5. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So that's why he takes on d5. He sees this, of course. That's why he takes on d5. It looks like a crime at first sight because you're giving this structure to black, but he defeats it with this precise sequence, you know?
Yeah.
Tactical sequence. That's why Najdorf is forced to take back with a pawn on d5. But that's not desirable because rook is getting happy and even the knight is getting happy. And you tell me Tal's next move. What's the drawback of this pawn disappearing from e6?
The drawback of this pawn disappearing. Well, it opens the file.
Yes.
For
Plus, how do you bring reinforcements on the king side? More pieces to the king side. Flowing with tempo.
Bishop.
Bishop h4 is always in the back of our head. Don't forget that. But if you play it directly, I think you're allowing some bishop c5 because the knight is pinned and so on and so on.
You want to bring the knight maybe?
Yes, he plays knight f5. You see, directly punishing black's last move because that pawn was killing that knight, stopping knight f5s. He looks at the opponent's last move. Okay, now f5 is given to me. And he plays knight f5. With tempo, by the way. Tempo on the bishop as well. You see? Both pieces are very happy, and we are concentrating our pieces on the king side again.
Yeah.
Bishop c5, do you exchange off those bishops or do you play d4?
Well, it's Tal, so you exchange the bishop. No, I'm joking.
No, that's actually a good point. Yeah, I forgot about that. But he's a flexible player, you know?
No, you don't want to do that. I think you don't want to exchange it because you just give the tempo with the check.
You don't because you don't want to allow this tempo move to black. And then, they have one full tempo, to maybe escape their attack.
Yeah.
But if you go d4, tempo gaining move, also the bishop needs to leave this diagonal. You see? You've driven that defender to the queen side, to Siberia in some sense.
To Siberia.
Yes. And now we discuss this in our Alekin session.
I guess...
what's the best move for white?
Queen g3 can be refuted, I guess.
Yes.
So that's not so interesting.
This is such a beautiful positional move.
Positional move.
Yeah, you just talk to your pieces, see who is crying, and just improve it. Make it happy.
Yeah, it's definitely the rook and the bishop, I think,
Yes.
cries a bit.
The bishop is definitely crying on f2.
Yeah. The knight is guarding on d4, so maybe it can join on h4 just to threaten to take the knight and disrupt the...
That's it. That's what simple chess looks like. You look at a bad piece, you improve it with tempo, ideally. That's it. Also, he's defending the pawn on f4 in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Just bring one more guy to the king side, right? Obviously, if I ask you this way, what's the worst place piece? The bishop doesn't belong on f2. You just need to improve it. And there's a potential for improvement, direct improvement potential. Yeah? Immediately putting pressure. Introducing ideas like bishop takes f6, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Everything improves. One more piece is joined the attack, and already here, the game is lost. He goes knight e4. What does Tal do in this position? What does Tal play?
Mm.
What is the move that is worth considering for white in this position?
Queen g4.
Sure.
You can consider because it threatens mate.
Exactly. These are one of the main lines, main ideas. Can you see how black will respond to this move queen g4? That's very important already to understand from this position.
I guess just g6 is maybe easy.
G6, or there's one more move. There is sort of a spoiler. Throws the party for us. There's one more defensive move for black against queen g4.
Yeah, bishop. No.
Put it on the board even. There's one more way for black to defend. Because g6, you see, g6 weakens those dark squares. It's a move that we want to see as white.
Yeah.
You know, knight h6, knight e7 checks and so on. But there's a move that is really, really disturbing us.
f6.
Well, still stopping this. Yes, f6, and the queen is guarding g7. Can you see it?
Yeah.
They're also blunting our bishop. They are defending their king, and the knight is quite excellent. And there's no way to improve further from this position.
No, I was just wondering, maybe you had some knight h6 ideas, but it doesn't
Knight e6,
seem...
king h8.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work for white.
Yeah.
You see, already like impasse. There's no easy way to improve this position. And now this is hanging as well.
Yeah.
You need to like retreat our pieces.
Yeah.
So Tal sees that. But first, he's chopping off that piece on e4. He's sacking the exchange on e4. And Najdorf said, Tal, I will accept all your sacrifices. So he must recapture. And here comes the key moment. Here comes the real key moment. Again, queen g4 fails because of f6. And here comes the wizardry of Mikhail Tal.
So you have to prevent
Exactly. You have to prevent f6.
So
You will find this move by asking yourself the question. They will play f6 on the next turn.
Bishop
You have to stop
f6
that.
blocks it.
You play like Tal Sulvai. You're a great player. Bishop f6, double exclam. The only move that wins. All other moves lose for white. I will leave it on the board, and I want you to understand the strength of this move, please.
Yeah, of course. But
tell me everything the move does.
Of course, you cannot take it. That's suicide because it leads to checkmate after queen.
Yes.
Queen g4.
Yes.
If you push, you can just go queen h6. That also
That
threatens
mate.
mate on g7.
Or even knight h6 mate. Wait. You don't need the queen. That's more economic, yeah?
Oh.
That's a more economic mate. Knight
More
and bishop mate.
Right.
Economic mate. That's more beautiful.
But the queen works too, right?
Queen works as well. Black cannot stop that on the next turn. You're right. Okay. What else the move does?
Yeah, it stops f6. So you can always follow up with queen g4.
Exactly. Queen g4 is now coming and there's no f6.
What else?
It even defends d4 just in case. Yeah, just look. I mean, a move cannot be more multifunctional. I mean, this is one of the most multifunctional moves I've ever seen in my life, actually.
Yeah,
right?
It does a lot of things. Does it do even more?
Yes, it also attacks the pawn on g7.
Of course.
Right? Incredible. Like stopping the opponent's winning move f6, attacking g7, defending d4, while also introducing queen g4 to follow.
That's an amazing
and black has no
move.
response against it. Amazing move.
That's a really cool
and of course, now you understand why you took the knight. Because if you play bishop f6 directly, then it doesn't work because of knight takes f6. You see?
Yes.
We are reversing our way back to understand his sacrifices. He sees bishop f6 already from this position.
These
right?
Kingside knights, they're very good defenders.
They are very good defenders, just like in the first two games.
Yeah.
How he traded off that defensive knight, the same. This case, he just an exchange for Tal, right? Doesn't seem like a sacrifice. He's just exchanging off the piece that is defending the king side. Boom.
Yeah, and here you actually have 3 attackers and no defenders.
3 attackers and almost like 0 defender. Exactly. Suddenly, like yeah, there's no manpower for black.
Yeah.
There seems no defenders.
That is really, really interesting. And also I liked
Yeah.
the way you prompted me to find bishop f6. It's just like, what can you do to prevent f6?
Exactly, right? You always start with a couple of ideas. Of course, you look at queen g4 first in its position, yeah, because it's a more forcing move, let's say. You threaten mate in one. But then, once you spot f6, which is not a given, of course, not many people might even spot this move, it's so strong. Once you see this, right, then you start to change your move order. Like you understand the strength of it, and then you try to prevent it in this position. And the way to prevent it is to block it physically.
You physically place something there.
You physically place something, so they can't play f6, exactly. And suddenly the game is over. He plays, oh, by the way, Najdorf is not true to his word. Because before the game, he told Tal that he would accept all of his sacrifices.
He didn't accept
He doesn't
this
take the
one?
bishop. He doesn't take the bishop. Come on, you need to be a gentleman and
That's
let him to
rude.
mate you in 2 moves. Right? Tal makes him eat his own words by going to f6. Right? Beautiful. He plays queen b6. The best move, but there's no escape. And Tal takes on g7. Yeah, this was the final point of the move. Because here queen g4 doesn't work, they will take on f6. So you need to take the pawn with the bishop. But now one more pawn is gone. There are less defenders on the black king, and the rest is easy. Even this move is nice, bishop e5, cementing the bishop in his position, opening up the g file, and the king is not safe.
No, it's definitely not safe.
Not safe at all, yeah? You can sack the exchange back, but nothing changes. Now my rook joins the attack. Again, 3 attackers, no defenders, equal material, game is over. So he tries queen g6, the queen needs to defend. Problem is knight e6 check, f5, and Najdorf resigns because the queen is almost no squares to move into in this position. Not to mention, once the queen moves, there are bishop d6 check in the position. You see, for example, queen g5, bishop d6 is sort of a game over position already. Like rook e7, there are moves like f6, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, look at this. It's just disastrous.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so after f5, he resigned because you see, the queen needs to guard bishop d6, but then if the queen goes c6, which is the best move, there are less defenders on the king side. And there are even like moves like queen h5 to pile up on this pawn. So many pawns and pieces on the attack. Game over. So Najdorf doesn't even want to see this. Actually, that's an early resignation. I would play at least queen c6 and see whether Tal will find his queen h5. But I think he was disgusted in the actual game. That he reached this position.
He was disgusted?
Yeah, he was not even true to his word. He didn't take that bishop on f6. I think he just said enough, He felt defeated.
Yeah, but that is a really cool sacrifice. I think
It's beautiful, yeah? So beautiful.
I think this is like my second favorite one that you showed me. My
Yeah?
favorite is of course the Alekhine sacrifice on f7 with the knight.
Yes, that amazing. He just leaves this knight on f7,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's absolute number 1. That's amazing.
Okay,
so this is number 2 in terms of sacrifices.
Yes,
That's
definitely.
cool.
This is
That's
number
cool.
2.
Yeah.
But
It's aesthetically pleasing as well. Yes.
But does Tal have any other famous sacrifices? Because I feel like it would be a bit of a shame if I have a favorite sacrifice and it's not even by Tal.
There's some break in the sound. I couldn't hear you exactly. What did you say again?
I said it's a bit of a shame if my favorite sacrifice is not by Tal.
There's something technical problem. It's a shame that Tal does something, but I don't hear that part. Can you say it again?
Chat, do you have breaking sound as well, or
Maybe
is
it's
it
mine. Maybe it's
just
my
on?
internet. I have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it's just on your end and not.
No, probably it's only my end. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the question again?
So chat can hear me fine. Okay, so that's good.
Cool.
No,
Cool.
I said it's just a shame if my favorite sacrifice is not by Tal.
You know what was missing here? It's a shame if my favorite boom blank was not from Tal. What was that blank part? Is it your game?
Sacrifice.
I sacrificed. Okay, I couldn't hear the word sacrifice. Okay, now I try to understand you again. You said it's a shame that your favorite sacrifice was not from Tal.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, finally. Yes,
Okay,
that's
finally.
correct.
Yeah. Okay, now I understood you. Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame because yeah, you like knight f7 more. That's your point, right? You like knight
Yes.
f7 more than this. Yeah, but think again. But okay, knight f7 was such a shocker indeed, yeah, because there's not even like a pawn that is standing on f7. I think that's everybody's favorite. It's hard to defeat that one. But I will show you more because there will be one more session. You know, don't give up on your Tal yet. There's
Yes.
a second session. I'll give you more of his long-term sacrifices that he just places the knight on a square, you can take it, and the game goes on like 10, 15 moves, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the more amazing ones to my mind, you know, like long-term piece sacrifices and so on.
Yeah.
But more is coming. I
Yeah.
might just pick up car from the school.
I hope you
Hope you
can.
love it.
I hope you can hear me, but I
Yes.
understand you need to. You need to probably start
Yep, start rolling to
rounding
pick me
up.
up from school. So we'll meet again,
Yeah,
probably sometime soon, hopefully.
we'll do
Yes.
one more session on Tal, and thank you so much, Rashad, for
Thanks so
spending
much.
time with us. This session was a bit earlier than we usually do, so we'll see when we do the next one, if we do same hour or
Yes, there
later
will
in
be
the day.
also one on YouTube.
Yeah.
I will post a link on my YouTube channel. I will probably make a short about this as well. And you can find it on YouTube later on Solvay's channel.
Yeah. So
Yep.
thank you so much, Jan, for the lesson.
Always pleasure.
Yeah.
I felt that I missed giving lessons. I was away for 5-6 weeks. I didn't give a single chess lesson. So I really missed it. And I hope you liked it as well.
Yeah.
Hope to see you again. Bye. You're a great student as well. Thank you for your
Yeah.
feedback. Honestly.
And thank you so
Nice.
much, chat.